Good evening and welcome to Simsport Racing International's 2.4 hours of Suzuka. So we are here in Japan at the officially designed Honda test track, one of the few tracks in the world that is officially a figure of 8. The track conditions are looking a little bit damp. Gt3 qualifying has just, I think, concluded, and the Gt4s are now out on track. So taking us into the Gt4 qualifying is Cammy Sturch and Brian Larson. Welcome, guys.
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm all good. How are you, Brian?
I'm good. I'm good, Steve.
Great stuff. So, yeah, interesting conditions at Suzuka, as you can see out on track at the moment. There's a little bit of rain falling, damp conditions, I believe, and it's looking like it could be a little bit slippy out there.
Yeah, it looks like we've brought the British weather to Japan, and so these cars are not aero cars like your Formula One cars, so they're just testing the limits as Beamer just doing a bit of drifting there. Yeah, so all the cars are going to be tippy-toeing around, getting their tyres as warm as they can in these conditions. I've never actually driven Suzuka on a Seto Corsa Competizione. What are your takes on this, Brian?
Well, I must be honest that I've done a few laps here, and it's a long track. It's one of these tracks again where one corner, if you miss it up, you'll have a whole section of the track gone wrong because you've got a lot of combination corners here. So this is going to be definitely taking a strain on the guys working on their setups and then having to deal with this rain. Because as you see the Beamer coming down through our screen now, he's really struggling getting the power down. So I'm guessing he'll also be having a big problem with understeering, like you see right there.
Right now, the sort of commentator's curse already.
Well, I did on a previous occasion. I did actually hail some of the drivers in our 24 hours charity run just a few weeks back, and it kind of bit me in the back end straight after I said it how I thought the drivers were doing. But still, good event, and I think some of these guys are definitely going to show us that they'll be able to cope with whatever we give him weather-wise.
I think so. I think Westcamp. I think I can't tell if he's showing off for us. Actually, you know, he might just be doing a bit of fun drifting on his outlap, just to show off for the stream and maybe to warm the rear tires up. But I think he's on a hot lap now. He's tipping-toeing round, and he looks a little bit more stable this time. So maybe he was just showing off for us.
Yeah, maybe just testing the course. He's still struggling a little bit, but trying to push to the edge in this wet weather-wise. He's trying to find the limit, and that's where you see the car step out.
Yeah, it's good to know where the line is, so when it comes to the race, you know where the limit is, so you know not to cross it. Whereas if you've never pushed it in practice or qualifying, you could accidentally go over that line during the race.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. Sorry to interrupt, Brian. I just wanted to draw your attention to Sem Spenkelink in car number 74, the Maserati that's just behind this BMW on track. I mean, the Maserati with very few driver aids, and it's a real handful at the best of times in these conditions. I think Sem's going to have his hands really full there, as we can see him on screen now. There's going to be some serious amounts of opposite lock being applied to that Maserati if the conditions stay the same for the next 2.5 hours of racing.
Yeah, but if it's something similar to the Porsche 911 Cup car in the Gt3 series, it should be. If he's got limited electronic aids, he's definitely going to be struggling for this one.
Yeah, I think it's all about that right foot application and the steering inputs being as smooth but as quick as possible when they need to be, you know, to catch those slides. And it's running out there really wide on the curb, so he's still got confidence in the grip levels out there. It's very wet. We just see there the back end just starting to break, but very similar to the BMW. He held it and he's controlled it, and it'd be interesting to see what lap times he gets in there. I mean, if people want to go to Pitwall Live, we have got a link to Pitwall Live up at the moment with all the live timings on there. You can see the results of the GT3 qualifying, which did take place before this. Obviously, the guys had gone out in 2 separate sessions. It's all classed as one session within ACC, but the GT3s went out on track for the first 15 minutes. The GT4s get the final 15 minutes, and we've got Matthew Kennedy in the 247 Lexus with a 201.02 on pole position in the GT3. So that's a pretty impressive time, Cammy, considering the conditions, wouldn't you say?
I would say so, yes. I think what's easy to forget, and as Brian said earlier, with if somebody makes a mistake, it takes a long time to get round back to the pits, is maybe as spectators we take for granted slightly the size of these circuits, as maybe a lot of us see it on TV with Formula One and we think, well, it takes a minute and a half to get round back to the pits, but we don't appreciate how quick those cars are. And yeah, this is a 2-minute lap for most other cars going around this circuit. But it's, given the conditions, still mightily impressive what these drivers are able to do, and most of them, they've kept it out of the walls.
Yeah, absolutely. We can see Sem, he's actually catching that BMW at this moment in time and really pushing on, and the BMW, in fact, is getting out of the way and making way for Spenklink to go through, and Sem absolutely throwing it underneath the BMW there and actually getting it all a little bit too far crossed up and not able to catch it and resurrect that one. So I think he's going to jump back to the pits maybe and have a reset. So we'll find somebody else out on track, and that is Garlin in the Audi. Now we know that Andreas Garlin is a quick driver, very quick in the standard GT4 championship, the sprint championship running at SSRi at the moment, and he knows how to drive this Audi on track, and it'll be interesting to see if he can get up to the top end of the GT4s. I think currently he's second in class, as we can see there on the bottom left of the screen with the relative timing tower there.
Just 0.3 of a second separating him from Neville in the Alpine. Let's see how he gets on with this lap. There's only 5 minutes of the session to go. So with that paint scheme though, it's not a car we'll miss amongst the mist and the rain, is it?
Definitely going to show out. Definitely. I was just wondering, we had a big update just a few weeks ago, and I'm just wondering if I see the BMW is back into the GT3 cars. People decided to stay away from the BMW because that was actually part of one of the big updates. So we just have to see if they actually also updated some of the GT4 cars. But normally Audi is an all-around good car, not the quickest, but definitely worth a drive, definitely.
So do you have a favourite car then of the series?
Well, they changed during the game live. They changed the updates, and everybody was saying from the beginning that the Aston and the Bentley, as far as I remember, quote me wrong, guys, but as far as I remember, the Aston and the Bentley were sort of like no-go cars. But coming with the recent updates through the game, and it seems like they bumped it, so they are more equal cars, and definitely for the last 24-hour race, the Aston was definitely a contender, and you also had the Lexus, which I believe actually finished third in the race. So, but it's my favorite car is the McLaren. It's an all-round good car, and if I can have that, it's the Porsche 911.
Because the British cars are in a minority here. This is, I'd say, more than half the grid. It's a German, very German grid we've got with Audis, Porsches, Mercedes making up the majority of the field. Let's hope the German reliability rubs off for them a little bit.
Yeah, I think with well, we've got to remember, obviously Suzuka, it relies quite a lot on some top speed, doesn't it? It's
Oh.
the Caterham. Sorry, I'm just hearing myself back a little bit, and it's putting me off. Someone's
Yeah,
speaking back.
We're suddenly getting some audio technical difficulties at the moment. Sorry about that, everybody.
Yeah, what I was saying is that basically you've got the Ginetta, not the Caterham. I was getting mixed up with the audio coming back through there. It was confusing, but the Ginetta is very short geared and it struggles down the long straight and it peaks out at top speed, and the other cars are still pulling along, and you've got, I believe it's around about sometimes 10 to 20 miles an hour. So kilometers an hour difference down the straights, and it makes it a very sort of not an uncompetitive car, but it's certainly a challenging car in amongst all the cars around you. So these German cars, the Audi, you know, it's pretty quick. The McLaren is pretty quick in a straight line. So good to see. You know, there's still a good combination of cars out there on track. We've got some, you know, Mercedes GT4s. We've got the Maserati. We've got an Alpine again. That's one that may struggle top end, but very very quick through the corners. BMW is a decent car. We've got a couple of Porsches out there as well. So a good mix of cars still in the GT4s, and there should be some good battling for those guys.
Yeah, I just wanted to say Andreas Gerlin did improve on his previous best, but it wasn't enough to make a difference. He is still in 24th place as we moved on to Neville, just getting the back end a little bit out, but it shouldn't hurt his lap time too much. Eric Neville with O'Brien Racing. Again, a very striking livery. I think these drivers are thinking, how can I maximize my time on camera? I know, I'll wear some high vis.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's draw some attention to the paintwork, and then it may detract away from some dodgy driving. That may be the policy. I'm not quite sure. Not trying to cast aspersions, but you never know the tactics, do you? But it's certainly going to be interesting, and obviously there's plenty of people in chat this evening, and welcome to everybody. Appreciate you bearing with us. We've got Dan providing the pictures very capably this evening. It's Dan's first time doing the stream, so we've got maybe a couple of issues with the audio. He's trying to resolve them as we speak, and working hard to sort them out for us, so hopefully everything will be running smoothly by the time the cars come to take the green flag for the race. On that subject, we've got 1 minute left of qualifying, and at the moment it's Osgaard in the Porsche on pole position for the GT4s, and it's looking like he's got a reasonable margin there from what I can see on the timing tower. It's looking like the others might struggle to catch him, because it's not really the conditions aren't going to get any better in this last minute of qualifying.
I'm not sure. I can only see the timing tower up to 8th place at the moment, so I can only see from 8th down to 30th, I'm afraid.
Just hearing in my ear that Garlin's up on his time, so let's just watch Garlin as he goes across the line. If it was a clean lap, he may well improve and move up that timing tower, and he does indeed, but it's still not enough to take that pole, and he's in second P2, and as quick as he went up to P2, he's back down to P3. Yeah, so some people putting in their best laps right at the end of qualifying. 10 seconds left on the clock as we're now looking at Shrek coming round in the Porsche, and he's looking to complete his lap. I'm not sure if he's up or down at this moment in time. It's looking like he's maybe about a 10th up as he's going round at this moment. And to be fair, a couple of guys behind. Sem Spenklink, he's 0.6 of a second up at the moment, so he's looking to improve on his time as well. So there's some people still coming around trying to get better times and maybe move themselves up that leaderboard a little bit.
So with an endurance race though, how big a part does qualifying play in an endurance race? It's say a marathon, not a sprint, and sometimes just holding your own and keeping out of trouble can make all the difference. And given the conditions, if we've got a few Rainmasters out there, sort of a few hidden gems who maybe can't put a hot lap together but can race sensibly, they can find themselves making up a lot of places over the next couple of hours.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, basically you've got to, I think for the GT4s in particular, qualifying, it's important. It's about setting that benchmark, getting that time down, and if you can get yourself ahead of a few competitors, that's a few less cars to potentially have to overtake. But I think in a endurance race, like you rightly say, it's all about keeping it clean in the first few laps. This is just under 2.5 hours. This event, 2 hours 24 minutes is the race length time. So with the driver swap in there as well, so it's going to be about keeping your nose clean and keeping it pointing the right way and being as consistent as possible. It's not so much about hot lapping in an endurance race as keeping it pointing the right way. Having said that, 2.5 hours, it's a long time, but it's not a long time in the endurance world. So a good start will be important, because you don't have that much time really to make things up, make up for mistakes or accidents.
No, although those starting at the front, from experience, we've all probably experienced it. You get that tense sort of squeaky bum moment in the first corner when you're hoping nobody runs into the back of you when you hit the brakes for the first time on a wet circuit. And so that is qualifying over. The race will begin in just over a minute and a half. So this is the last moment for all the drivers to do their pre-race rituals. I know for James Hunt, it was being sick. I know for myself and a couple Ginetta drivers I know, we have to run to the toilet. Even if we haven't drunk for an hour, we have to do that. It's just sort of a last-minute nerve sort of thing. Do you have any experience with that, Brian?
Well, sometimes doing these long races, it's you really have to bend down just to keep it to do your stint. But normally it's I think the adrenaline in the body actually stops the fluid.
Through the corners, remain precise and consistent, and not take any big gambles. And then into sector 3, we know sector 3's got some very, very brave corners, and into the chicane there before you come round to complete your lap onto the start finish straight again. Some mighty corners around Suzuka, Cami, and I think it's going to test a few drivers in these conditions tonight.
So I'm going to predict we're going to lose no less than 4 drivers in the first turn and the S curves. With fresh tyres, the ground's wet, and you've got the weight of the car shifting left, right, and then you've got the anti-banked curve as well. We're going to get a few drivers just pushing that a little bit too hard just to eke ahead of the other. And yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of cars falling off the track in the first lap.
We saw in the previous 24-hour race, we were talking a lot about just before race start about how everything was going to be going, how people would be pushing the cars, and we're quite surprised because for the first couple of hours, I can't believe it, if it's 2 or 3 hours, they were actually pushing like it was a sprint race. And we were talking a lot about with the tire wear and what sort of fuel they're running. And bear in mind, this was a 24-hour race, and normally the cars, unfortunately, I don't have the quite normal details for the GT4 cars, but the GT3 cars generally have a span of hour, 5 minutes, hour, and 8 minutes with fuel. So that'll mean you'll have at least one driver change. And per the rules, I'm not sure if they're allowed to do 1 hour or one driver is allowed to do 2 stints and then switch for the last bit for the second driver, or they have to switch between them when they do a pit stop. But with these tricky conditions, it's going to really put a strain on the drivers, because you use a lot of more concentration alone just getting the power down to the tarmac. So I'm guessing that depending on how good the stamina is, that they're probably going to be changing drivers at the first pit stop.
Yeah, I say I was just about to speak, and then the driver ladder disappeared. Hopefully we can get that back in a moment. There we go. As we've got Kennedy rounding them through Spoon Curve, it will be his job to say take the pack away at the green light, and he's got the most difficult job of he'll be the first to break into turn 1. So he's got to judge where the braking point is, how much grip his tyres are going to have, how much pressure he can put on that brake pedal without locking his wheels up and just going straight on at the first turn. But then he's also got to play the balancing act, because if he brakes too soon, he may have a rear end full of BMW. And say with the BMWs with their new buck teeth grills, that make quite an indent on the back of his Lexus. As he's put his foot down. No, I thought he was going off then. As they come up to the Casio triangles. So just to run through the order, the top 8, it's Kennedy in the Lexus, Wanst in the BMW, Ambronosa, then Wilczek, Newman, Muldering, and Horst. So the Casio triangle, a good opportunity for overtaking as well, but we've seen it go wrong for a lot of people, and we've still got a few cars in the pit lane, I think. We've got cars 290 and 288 in the pit lane, as we're just waiting for the green light now. In double file as they head down the start-finish straight here at Suzuka, a very wet and dark Suzuka. Their practice was a lot brighter, and it's go. Green lights are on, and Kennedy, we're clean away at the moment, but we've not reached the first corner yet. We'll wait and see what happens. Kennedy's got through turn 1 cleanly. It looks like it's generally clean, and maybe my prediction's not going to come true.
Oh, you have to be a bit careful about that one. But yeah, it looked like it's been really clean up to now. So let's hope it stays for this, because it's a long race, so a bit of damage to either front, rear wing, bodywork could actually take you into the pits for a lot of repairs, which you don't really have time for.
Yeah, and it just says a lot about the quality and the caliber of skill on this grid today, that nobody's really, it doesn't seem like, we've got a spinner, that's a Porsche 911, I think. Got a Porsche 911 facing the wrong way and heading down the order very quickly. And just as I said, my prediction wasn't coming true. They've all done it after the S-curves, just to mess with me.
Yeah, tricky condition, so everybody's trying to get away, and mistakes happen, so hopefully not a big damage, so they would be able to rejoin and get the head down and get it back into the race.
It didn't look like anybody ran into anybody else. It looked like everyone spun off, didn't really hit the barriers too hard, and just had their own solo incidents, because the worst thing would be to wreck your splitter on the first lap and be driving around with more understeer than you would already have in these tricky conditions. As we're following Dmitry Schenk now in the Porsche 911, the Century Porsche Ticino team, car number 11. He is down in 23rd place. As we've got a Mercedes in the background there, I think that was that Groot? I didn't expect to be saying that this evening. It looked like he had a spin. It looked like he just about held it, but he was facing 90 degrees across the circuit. We've got side by side, and who's going to blink first into 130R? This is of conditions. Is anybody going to be brave? Schenk thinks better of it and backs out of it. He lost the battle, but lives to fight another day. As he makes his way. Right, we had two cars facing the wrong way. Somebody thought about going into the pits and then changed their mind.
Yeah, I think he's maybe just powering down a little bit. He knows the tricky condition, so maybe hoping that somebody else will make mistakes, get the car spun around, and have to stay and wait to be able to rejoin safely. So it's it's a tricky game this with these conditions, to be sure. Bit of contact there.
Yeah, Volkering was getting...
McLaren seemed to be okay going through. I don't know if that's the rocket car or...
Yes.
But, yeah.
The Jensen Team Rocket, the team owned, if it sounds familiar, it is owned by Jensen Button. They have a team in the British GT series, as well as their eSport team, and he got it a little bit twitchy, but managed to save it. He will be annoyed with himself, but he'll just be thankful he didn't prang it into a wall. Say at this time in the race, you don't mind losing a battle to win the war, as it were, later on, as we've just shuffled down to Shellikens in the Porsche 911 that's running a sort of more traditional livery, and he's coming under pressure from Spenkelink. Sorry, this is the first time I'm pronouncing all these names, so forgive me if I get any wrong. And it's not only you have to focus on your own race, but you're having to focus on the car behind you. You might be a little bit paranoid that they're going to run into the back of you. You're trusting that they do their job as you're doing your job. And I wonder how many of these spins are because of the weather, and how many of these spins are from pressure of having somebody right behind them.
Well, you get a lot of pressure in the beginning because you're really, really close, and you want to get the maximum out of the start, getting away from the guys behind, following the guys in front. So it's, as we saw in qualifying in GT4s, people more or less doing sideways as we see for the BMW here. Well, they're just trying to get the power down, and that's racing for you.
And some fastest laps coming in now. It's Ambrinosa and then Vidago setting fastest laps, so maybe a few people have got some clear space. I mean, the chap with the most clear space at the moment, Kennedy, he's pulled out a 4-second lead. So all he has to do is keep his nose clean and stay out of trouble, and he can say it'll be a trouble-free drive until he's catching up the GT4s. So we move to Dominique Geese in the McLaren in 10th place. This is where I would be. So I raced in a Diamond Cup. We used the Seto Corsa. I raced alongside a couple of W Series drivers in that series. And the happiest race I could have, I'd be in the top 10, but I'd usually just end up on my own. And it's a very relaxing place to be. Whilst you may not necessarily be gaining, you feel comfortable that you can have your own race and get some solid points. As Garling was in the BMW, I thought he got a little bit out of shape there, but he's running around the outside there. But these are the sort of midfield tangles and battles we will have. Sorry, apologies, it's not the midfield. It's the front of the GT4 pack, isn't it? Brian?
They are battling, definitely.
Sorry, I lost you.
No. I was just looking at the pit wall live with the times, just to see where we are with where the cars are, and we see that the GT3s are putting out a 2:13.5, and coming down the order, you probably got maybe a 10-second gap to the GT4. So they did look a little bit close in practice, but I'm guessing that with the wet conditions and the more slippery conditions, they are hesitant to put the power down. Maybe even change the engine maps a little bit to get a little bit more traction.
Yeah, I think we had Rettig there in the McLaren. He had two wheels on the grass coming out of the final curve, the Castillo Triangle, and onto the main straight. Very lucky not to spin it there, and Vidago put in a fastest lap. But despite his fastest lap, Kennedy pulled out another second for his lead. So we're with Paul Newman now, number 991 in the Porsche 991. And so he's following our favourite BMW that we seem to keep following. So it's after those first few tricky laps, I think everybody's settled down now, and they're just settling in for the night, as it were.
Yeah, it's a long race with these conditions. It's probably twice as long if it's been dry conditions. So and from the beginning, you had a couple of guys staying off field, just waiting for the field to go, for all the others to get past. So you'll definitely see some changing during the race, but I think the main part of the race is settled down. People getting into the rhythm, getting into the groove, and just trying to get the head down and getting the most of it within their pit stop strategy.
And that was a great pass from De Horst around the Dunlop curve. He sort of played it very cool to corner before and got the undercut, the old switcheroo, as Crofty would say, and made up a place. As Vidago, he's been setting fastest laps, so he's really being held up now by Ambrinoza. He knows that Kennedy is extending his lead. As Ambrinoza succumbs to the pressure, he cuts the corner. Now he really should give that position. He does, whether that was willingly or he just didn't have enough speed to keep his second place. But Kieran Vidago moves up to second as Ambrinoza moves off the racing line. Sometimes you can do that if your tyres are getting too hot, you'd want to cool them, but I can't imagine that would be the case at the moment. He probably just doesn't want a face full of spray and would like to see where he's going a little bit. Now Vidago can say he's been setting purple laps, fastest laps, and he'll want to start making a dent in that 5-second lead that Kennedy's got in the Lexus. And so there's only 2 Lexuses. Lexi, do you know?
Here we go.
We've started already.
Let's go with Alexei.
Alexei. That's going to set off some Amazon device in somebody's house.
That's Kennedy just running wide there and off track completely. That's going to cost him some time, and that's not what he wants when he's got the Kieran Vidago in the BMW bearing down on him. And it'd be interesting to see the difference in the next lap, how much time Kieran makes up, because currently on the last lap, Kieran's was a 2-minute 12.4 and Kennedy's was a 2-minute 13.4, so there was a full second on the last lap, and I think Vidago will make up a lot more time than that on this lap. This time round, we're looking at Yamak at the moment in Porsche 909, just running off track there, running a little bit wide in the GT3 Porsche, so he's cost himself some positions and some time. He's just regrouping now and getting going again.
Yeah, I think the trouble for Kennedy is it can be easy to just, you're driving, but you're keeping your second eye on the gaps. When you're driving, you have a little window on the bottom right that sort of gives you all the information you need about cars around you, especially useful for when you're lapping cars. But no doubt he's looked and noticed Vidago has taken second place and he knows he's quick. So maybe it's just unsettled him a little bit. He's taken his attention off the road ever so slightly, and it's just got him out of that rhythm he was in. And when you're out on your own and you're not following a car, it is easy to fall out of rhythm because you're not just copying the person in front, as it were. As we're following now Anthony de Horst after that great overtake he made around the Dunlop curve. Allgard is sticking with him, though. He's not been able to shake him. He's put out a little gap, but maybe Allgard, he'll fight back. Maybe he'll just follow and see if he can learn a bit. And we've got an off. We've got an off at the Spoon curve. So we're following Paul Newman, and then a couple cars back, it looked like somebody got a tank slapper. Or
that
maybe
was
like
Jensen.
A pit
Jensen,
maneuver.
I think. That was P20. Well, he's in P22, P23 now, car number 12. Looked like it was Jensen that went off and had to regroup. And yeah, interesting. There's a few people out of position. De Horst, I think, was one of them that was out of position because I think he had a spin on the opening 1 or 2 laps. I can't remember which lap it was now, but he definitely he went off track. So. Car number 69, that is Anthony de Horst, who's currently in P13. He's on a recovery drive at this moment in time. Someone else,
Ooh.
you can see that there's a touch of oversteer when they just get a little bit greedy with that loud pedal. The conditions are still wet, it's still slippy, although in the next 10 minutes or so, the rain is forecast to stop, the track will start drying and we will get some changeable conditions, and maybe the conditions will change just in time for the first round of pit stops for them to go on to slicks. Who knows how fast it's going to dry up in the night now, while it's still raining at the moment, but it is forecast to go dry.
So everyone watching, if you've never played, as I say, and the McLaren's off again, he's really having a hard time. It's almost like he's got slicks or intermediates on now. But if you've never played this simulator or game, you know, it just shows how realistic it is. You can't just, you know, loud pedal, make a car go fast. It's that realistic that you only need to put your foot down just a tiny bit too much, or maybe you've got cheaper pedals and you don't have that feel through the pedal that maybe sort of the more expensive one do, and you could just get a little bit of wheel spin and make a mistake, because unlike your cars that you drive on the road, these aren't really sort of equipped with ABS and traction control and everything to the same extent. As we're following Sebastian Reinl now in the McLaren.
Kennedy's responded. Yeah, Kennedy's responded though. We can see there a new fastest lap from Kennedy of a 2-minute 11.697. But I think Kieran Verdago's last lap must have been an invalid one, because he was actually faster. He did a 2:10.9, so he was
half the gap.
He's still faster, but he must have exceeded track limits for it not to count as a fastest lap, because Kennedy's got the official fastest lap with a 2:11.6. So Kennedy's trying to respond, but Verdago is still over half a second, 3/4 of a second a lap faster than him. So that gap is coming down, and it is literally, I think it's a matter of 2 or 3 laps, and that's if Kennedy doesn't make a mistake. You're quite right, Cammy. You know, you're driving there, you're trying to maintain your position, you're focusing on trying to be consistent, get those lap times in. But you've got somebody like Kieran Verdago bearing down on you. It's very, very hard not to become distracted by that.
Yeah, from my experience, my experience is limited with Assetto Corsa. I've only done about 12 races in one championship, so I will have to ask you for your expert knowledge on this. How many times can a driver have a sort of a deleted lap time and off-track excursion before they are penalised with a drive-through or a stop-go?
They get 3 warnings basically, and then on the 4th one they will get a drive-through penalty. So, and then it's reset back to another 3 warnings.
So they do not want to stack these up in the first 10 minutes.
No, and as you quite often see in endurance racing, it's unfortunately it's another driver that pays the price for maybe the first driver's mistakes, because he might get in the car and there's only one cut warning left, and if he gets it, he gets the drive-through. So it's a little bit of an unfair process, but that's endurance racing, that's driver swap racing for you. As we're watching Kieran Verdago now fully committed, looking for all that grip in the BMW. This is the new BMW that's just been released on ACC, so I think I might be right in saying that this is the first time out for Kieran racing it in anger, as it were. He'll have done lots of practice and lots of setup work, but this is the first time out in an event racing it, I think, and he's really closing that gap. And there you go, Verdago with the new fastest lap of a 2:10.8. So yeah, he's really closing that gap now onto Kennedy, our leader.
He's getting faster lap after lap. The car is getting lighter with its fuel load, and for the first time now he's able to probably read the number plate of Kennedy. And yeah, when you've got a car catching you up, when I drive, maybe this is foolish, I turn all those like the driver ladder off. I don't want to see, I'm a bit like Kimmy, like I don't want to see what the car behind me is doing, because I will keep looking and it will bug me and distract me. But when you'll set up reference points for when you're looking in the rear view mirrors, so you know when you come out of one corner, you give it a second, you think, okay, there isn't a car there, so I've got a certain amount of gap. But now Kennedy's going to be looking and going, he's coming around that corner right after me, and that will keep poking at his mind if he's anything like I was.
Yeah, absolutely. You're 100% right. I think most drivers, are like that. I prefer to be the following driver and sort of weigh up my options and try and make a decisive move. If I can ever find anybody that I'm actually faster than on a track these days, it's getting fewer and fewer. But I think the other psychological thing to think about is, Brian will know about this. When you're that car that is doing the chasing, as you can see that gap coming down also, and more importantly, when you get that visual gap of being able to see the car in front, it helps you to remain consistent and push on, doesn't it, Brian?
Oh yeah, it gives you sort of like a feeling that you got a chance to actually catch the car in front. But I must agree with Cammy, having these times which the cars are doing, sitting next to you, and you can actually look at them, and you're feeling that you're catching the car in front, but you can see the times are just saying otherwise. It's just so demoting that, you just want to get your head down and not having any stress with the times, but just basically see what you can see at the front screen.
Yeah, absolutely. Just something else I saw there, Cammy. Sorry, Kennedy started defending already. He was trying to break the slipstream.
Yes.
I think a lot of drivers, they do that too early for me. I think that you need to just carry on driving your line, do what you need to do to be consistent. Don't try to defend too early, because I think that plays into the aggressor's hands.
Yeah, I don't think he can claim he was just trying to get the rain and mist out of his eyes. I don't think that line will wash with us. But yeah, I don't know if it was probably just breaking the toe, but also just a little sign that, no, I'm going to defend this position. You may have caught me, but as the late great Murray Walker said, pass it over. I messed that right up. Catching is one thing, but passing is quite another. And Vidago's pulled out an 8-second gap over Ambrinoza, so you can just see how much Ambrinoza was holding him up. And it was only 5 laps ago or so he passed, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the other thing for driving offline in ACC, it used to be a thing. I'm not sure if it still is with the new updates that have come out, but with the wet weather tyres, as the track started to dry, and I think we're a long way off the track drying at the moment, you need to keep those wet tyres cool. You need to drive offline to try and find the moisture. But again, I think we're a long way from that at the moment. So I don't think Kennedy can claim to be saying that's what he was doing. I think he was definitely thinking about the slipstream. He's pushing hard. The Lexus there was just, it was protesting, wasn't it? And Vidago, even he was suffering with a little bit of what looked like understeer coming through there as he was pushing the car on and trying to close that gap. And I don't think he needs to push too hard. I think he's putting enough pressure on at the moment, because for me, I think a lot of the art of overtaking with these GT3s is actually causing your opponent to make a mistake.
I think Vidago can sit quite relaxed behind Kennedy. He doesn't need to go for the overtake now, although he could very easily, as Kennedy got a bit of wheel spin coming out of the Casio triangle. But Vidago could sit behind Kennedy for 10, 15 minutes, half an hour. The time he needs to be in the lead is at the end of the race. You don't get any points or any trophies for leading 99% of the race, as Max Verstappen knows all too well this year. Despite the amount of laps he's led, it sort of betrays the amount of victories he's had as well. And Vidago, unlike the Formula 1 cars, these cars don't lose so much. They don't really lose downforce in the same way. They're not aero-based cars. It's more of a physical grip with the tyres. So Vidago can follow really closely, and he can save a little bit of fuel. He can relax. He can take his time. Whereas Kennedy's going to be apprehensive and constantly. He's going to be checking his mirrors every now and then as they start coming up to I believe this is the first set of back markers, and it's not even a GT4 car. I don't think. I think they're coming up to another GT3 car who probably had some troubles. Who had some spins in the first lap.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they have lapped a couple of the GT4s that maybe had some issues on the first lap, but like you say, they're coming round to lap some more right now. And just watching the lines that these two are taking, the BMW is just looking a little bit tidier. That Lexus is on the edge. He's pushing it a little bit. It's not quite as under control as the BMW maybe is, and he's just having to push it maybe a little bit more than he wants to. And for me, I think at the moment, Vidago just needs to keep doing what he's doing now. He needs to sit there. He needs to keep himself large in those Lexus mirrors and just keep pushing. Look at that tight line that he can take through there, allowing him to stay on the power and come out, use all of the track, get going wide. The Lexus just maybe not quite as tight, not quite as tidy as the BMW at the moment. What's your thoughts, Brian?
Well, we saw in the 2.4-hour race with the Lexus, and it was actually a good car. They were battling up to third place. As I said earlier, there was nobody actually touched the BMW because they knew there was a big update coming in. They didn't know how it would actually affect the car, but it seems like the BMW is actually a title contender for what we're seeing right now. A little bit of space now, having to pass GT4 for the lap, but I definitely think that Kieran he's got this one. He's going to be passing within the next few laps, maybe pushing Mark Kennedy to make a mistake.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, he's dropped off there again. Let's not forget, this is a brand new car to the sim. This BMW, it's not the old model with a new bop on it or anything. This is the new car in the sim, and so nobody really, as I say, racing it in anger. It's all new to us. Let's see what it can do in the hands of Kieran tonight. At the moment, it's looking pretty good. He's going to close that gap back down to Kennedy and see what he can do and see if he's just the back markers are getting in the way again. Kieran flashing the lights there. That's a bad place to catch one, and he's gonna get him before they drop into the hairpin. Just coming round turn 10 now and into the hairpin, which is turn 11. He's got past him there, and he's gonna stay tight as long as that GT4 doesn't. Oof.
Oh, that is the disadvantage of being the leader. You're the first, as Martin Brundle would say, you're the first to wake the back markers up. When you're the second car, it's usually a little bit easier, but Vidago's really having a bit of a tough time with these other guys. They really should just be coming off the gas and just letting the GT3 leaders by. There's no reason to keep their foot down to sort of drag race them down the straights. There's no need for it, and really, it's a shame that Vidago had to really outbrake the GT4 car at the hairpin. They should just be moving out the way for him, but that's my opinion. It's allowed Kennedy to open up the gap again. Hot lapping is one thing, racing is another, and this is just racecraft, traffic skill, as we've got Yamuk in the pits. I don't think he's serving a penalty. Only Paul Newman he's got the first and only penalty at the moment, a 10-second drive-through. But is this a refueling stop, or had he crashed, do you know?
No idea, but I do know Anthony Horst in 12th place is only 0.7 of a second off P11, so he's really making up ground at the moment. And in fact, he's closing that gap right down now to 4/10 as we've just cut to another battle out and back again. So we'll watch to Horst as he's putting pressure and he's forced. Yeah, he's gone wide and he's pipped to Horst has taken that P11, albeit. Kira is actually putting pressure back on him. He's rejoined the track and he's trying to drop back into the slipstream, but it's not looking. I don't know if he's going to get that done before they come round to the 130R.
I think he might.
Do you think he might?
No.
There was a bump draft. I'm very sure, he just sort of tapped. I'm very sure Horst just gave him a little bit of a love tap at the end there. He made no attempt to overtake. I mean, it wasn't as dramatic as Hamilton and Verstappen's love tap, but
steady. It was loved. There's a lot of Dutch in the audience. Steady.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, either way, I'm excited for tomorrow. Both drivers sort of deserve to win. They both had a great season, haven't they? Vidago, he's closed back up. It's still a second, but Kennedy seems to be a bit of a traffic master. As we're joining Andreas Galin now with the worryingly named brake failure team in the Audi R8 following Porsche. Sorry,
I was going to say, in the Mercedes behind them, this is a three-way battle. This in the GT4s for third place on the GT4 podium. So this is very important. This is three cars after that final step on the podium at this early stage in the race. So nothing's won or lost at this moment, with just under 2 hours still to go in this race. But yeah, very, very close, very, very tight at the moment. And Garlin, as I said in the build-up in the qualifying, he knows how to pedal that car. I've seen him driving, and he's a very consistent and a very quick driver. But they have got the GT3s coming round, and I believe that's the leader that's just dropped into the shot there as well. And it is indeed, that's Vidago and Kennedy coming round to start lapping these guys. And this is going to be intense, because when these guys are battling as well, it just makes it that little bit tougher.
Yeah, Kennedy's really been doing well with the traffic. People just seem to move. Maybe he's bribed them all. Maybe he's best friends with them all. They seem to move out the way for him, like the parting of the Red Sea. But Vidago doesn't seem to have the same luck or skill. He's made it nicely through turn 1 though, so now this is really where the test begins. He's got a couple Porsche, someone else ahead. He's got to handle those through the S's as Kennedy will start. No, that was Kennedy. He's not. So I mistook Kennedy for one of the GT4s with this aerial view. I say what would be useful though is to have a driver ladder that visibly separates GT3 drivers from the GT4 drivers, if possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And just looking again on my trying to lead the broadcaster a little bit, but P8 Patrick Wanst is within 3/10 of the car in front of him at the moment. He's almost bump drafting as Dan does a fantastic job now to bring us that picture. And look at Patrick all over the back of P7 now and looking to try and make a move. That gap's been very close for the last few laps. Patrick Wanst has been putting a little bit of pressure on here, and he's certainly looking to make the move. But again, everybody's looking a little bit loose still. The rain has stopped. It should start drying up. The track is still displaying as wet, but it should start drying up any time now. And the conditions, the grip levels will change, but those tyre temps will also change. But that's not affecting Garlin at the moment. He's on the attack very much so, and he's all over the back of that the Porsche. Sorry, he's really, really pushing now to try and move forward, and he's putting all kinds of pressure on this Porsche now.
Yeah, he's poking his nose up the inside as they sweep through turn 12. As we've got, whoa!
Oh, contact!
Oh, I think Orius just tried to back off the gas to let the leaders by.
Yeah, not quite sure what happened there, to be fair, but it's certainly lost him a position, and he's looking to reclaim that position. And Garlin and
they're both understeered. Yeah.
Both understeering off the track, and no position is given back at this stage. Whether Garlin will do it later on, whether he feels he needs to do it, I'm not quite sure. I don't think our view was the best for us to decide that, but it certainly looked like the Porsche just lifted to maybe let the BMW pass before 130, and it just caught Garlin unawares.
I think so. I was thinking a moment ago, and I'll put out this statement, and you tell me how true or false it may be, but given the BMW's new cars are always OP when it comes to the BOP.
Potentially. I don't want to be controversial, because I know Kieran very well. And he's only 4/10 behind Kennedy right now. He's putting a push on for the lead again at this moment in time as we just cut back to that battle. Kieran's really putting him under pressure. Yeah, you're quite right. I mean, we always know when we get new cars and new additions to the sim that there usually follows a quick succession of small updates to different handling characteristics and things, and some, shall we say, under the cloak, as it were, updates that we don't always know about. But look at this, Verdago's really putting pressure. He's trying to force that inside line as they go into that turn 11 hairpin, and he's got the inside line, but it's all going to be about the drive coming out of the corner now. Is the BMW got the drive on the Lexus? I don't think he has. The Lexus has got enough grip. The Lexus has got the inside line, and the Lexus has still got first place.
Fantastic driving, great sportsmanship from both drivers, giving each other plenty of space, although I think Kennedy was compromised by that McLaren GT4 that he was coming up to lap as they came out the hairpin. As they came out turn 9 and under the bridge, it looked like that he just had to come off the gas. He had to second guess where that McLaren GT4 was going to go, and that gave Verdago, didn't need a second invitation to pop it up the inside. But no, Kennedy's done well to hold it, but he knows he's got to do this for the next 2 hours of the race, but whenever he deems his shift to be over and he hands over to his teammate. As we're following Patrick Wanst now in the second BMW, and he is chasing Van Diesel, not that Van Diesel, although it probably is pronounced Van Diesel, I suppose. He's in the second running Lexus, so as Wanst runs a bit wide, he's eager to take that position. He knows he's close, and this can be where you lose a bit of patience. You want that position, you just push a little bit too hard as they're coming up to the, I'm going to start referring to it as the sort of New York taxi. I mean, we keep seeing it, and it's yellow with the classic black checker pattern, isn't it?
Seems to be a lot of them on track, doesn't there? But yeah, I mean, I'm just watching another screen at the moment, and Verdago is now within 2/10 of the leader. He's certainly putting the pressure on for that lead again. He's really pushing hard, just dropping back now and again, but he still manages to push right back up onto the back of Kennedy. Kennedy's under all kinds of pressure in that Lexus at this moment in time. Did see Verdago get a little bit loose a couple of corners ago, but he's certainly applying the pressure. As we go back to Patrick Wanst, who's looking for, currently taken that P7 place from Dissel and got up to P7, so great drive from Wanst. Great, he applied pressure for the last few laps, kept it close, kept it tight, and it's paid off, and he's up to P7 now, so he just needs to try and consolidate that position and move on and move forward and see if he can move on to try and do anything about P6.
Yeah, it was a really nice clean overtake. It looked like he just had the drive coming out of the final turn, and he just made it clean and simple over the start-finish line. The move was done by the time they got into turn 1, and he didn't outbrake himself, so job done. Pat on the back for himself, boosts his ego, and he can now set off after Rettig. As Vidago's just moving, as he sees they've got another bit of traffic to contend with, and he knows he's been coming off second best in these. So Kennedy flashing lights, very well done there. They move over, as I always think they should. I always think blue flag means get out of the way, don't hold them up. Some people don't read that quite the same, and I know some series have slightly different rules on it. I know in Indy cars, you have to fight through the back markers.
Yeah, basically, I mean, I think the rules usually within the GT world are that the back markers, they stay on the line and it's up to the lapping car to get past. What we always advise is that, you know, if you are being lapped and you stay on the line, but as they're coming into a braking zone, you maybe lift that fraction earlier, that little bit, or you brake that little bit harder, and you just make it easier for the lapping car to get through, because you've got nothing to gain by making it hard for them. And in fact, 9 times out of 10, that'll just cost you time. And if there's an incident, it may even gain you a penalty.
Exactly. I'm trying to think of the times I could be very smug now. I've not been lapped that often, but I do remember being lapped by the Team Jensen Rocket boys on R Factor 2 in the E-Team Brit Championship. And yeah, they had a tough time lapping people. I think I just went really wide on a hairpin at Interlagos, and that was the easiest way for me to let them by, but I'm not very experienced. I used to drive with Team Fordzilla, if you didn't know. I'll just put that out there. That's my biggest bragging right.
Absolutely. Just a quick hello to Denise Pope in the chat. She says Kennedy's got this covered, I reckon. So I don't know. I'm not sure if he has or not, but we'll see. Kennedy's doing a great job. I mean, considering how fast Vidago caught the Lexus 247, he's not been able to put a move on it, and Kennedy is driving really well under a lot of pressure. But Vidago, I mean, you know, if there's any. Everybody tries to go as long as possible in the endurance world before pit stops. It's the quickest way usually, but you know, if there's any chance that Vidago can get a pass on before they come into the first set of pit stops, which they'll be approaching very soon, I think he could gap that Lexus, but he's got to get the pass done. And I think I can just see on my other screen, he's very, very close again. He's within a couple of tenths, and he's certainly applying pressure. And they're on the start-finish straight now, as you can see on your screen. Looking back now at Vidago, and it's just whether that BMW's got the legs on the Lexus, which it's not looking like it has, to be fair. Even in the slipstream, it's not closing the gap, and I think that's where Vidago's struggling. It's the top end. If he had a little bit more top end and he could get in that slipstream, he could definitely get a pass done.
See, now it's almost a mirror image of Wanst and Dissel, who were fighting in the exact same cars, except Wanst was able to just walk by with a higher top end speed. So it makes me think, is it coming down to fuel loads?
Yeah, potentially. I mean, you know, when you look at Vidago, where he's strongest at the moment, it does seem to be stronger. Look at the gaps closing there in the corners. He's got the mid-corner and corner exit speeds sorted. It's just that top end. I mean, there's nowhere for him to pass Kennedy through the corners. He can't, unless he can force Kennedy to run wide, as Kennedy did just run a little bit wide there and had to lift off slightly, and Vidago closes right in. Is he going to get a chance into the hairpin again? Now I don't think he's close enough, genuinely. I think he needs to be a lot closer than that, and he needs to be poking his nose down the inside. But he's going to look now to take a little bit wider entry, maximise his exit speed, and try and get the drive out of there. But again, not close enough, not fast enough, and Kennedy's just doing everything right at the moment.
It's a very professional drive from both of them, a very professional and mature drive from both of them. They know that it's a long race, and there's no need for silly antics. He's not going to be settling for second place, of course, but he knows he doesn't need to stick his nose in and make a half-hearted attempt. He can bide his time for as long as he needs. A long time before he needs to start panicking. As we've got Dimitri Schenk now, he's right up behind the other Porsche. Sorry, it's just marked as AN on our driver ladder.
Yeah, we'll just refer to that as number 19.
We'll just call him number and 19. So it's only 0.2 seconds between them. camera director, I suppose, Daniel Hyde, doing a great job of keeping us updated with the on-track action, which cars are closest, there we go, as we've got Arnold Schrichter in 9th place. It looked like he's making a move on Dissel as they're coming up to pass one of the Alpines. Did that Alpine just go straight off the track? I think that Alpine just went
may
straight
just
off
have
the
had
track.
yeah, maybe there was a connection issue for him and he's just literally lagged off the track, as it were. But just while we were talking there, Kennedy's responded and he's found a little bit more time, and he's gone with a 209.387 as opposed to Vidago's 209.7. So he was around about 4/10 quicker than Vidago on the last lap, but both of them have broke under that 2-minute 10 barrier, which is important. I think those two guys are the fastest on track at the moment by a little bit of a margin, by a good half a second or so. Everybody else is still in the 2:10s, 2:11s, and some in the 2:12s still. So yeah, they're certainly setting the pace, but they are finding that it's getting quicker and quicker at the moment. Although, just looking at that forecast on screen as well, we've got a dry phase coming in now where the track it's gone to damp. It's started to dry up a little bit. The times are getting a little bit quicker, but in 30 minutes it's going to rain again.
But do the drivers know it's going to rain in 30 minutes? What information, for those watching, gives that insight, Steve, of how much information are the drivers seeing as they're racing?
They can see all that information. They can turn certain elements of the information off when they're driving if they don't want to have too much on display. But let's not forget they've got a teammate that's probably watching as well, and they will be able to pass this information on. Interesting what you were saying before. I wanted to pick up on it, but we moved on. But when you were saying about how you turn a lot of the visuals off when you're driving, so you can just focus on what you're doing, I'm pretty much the same, to the point that I even turn like the tyre monitors and things like that off, because I don't want to know if my tyres are wearing out. I want to drive the car through the feel, I don't want to be able to see what I think it should be doing. I want to feel what it is doing.
Absolutely.
And I always found I drove more cautiously if I could see like a tyre wear meter or a temperature saying it was getting too warm, it was whatever. I would drive to the feel of the car, and I used to drive more consistently and quicker that way.
You almost get a bit of a placebo effect, and you start thinking, oh, the car is behaving differently, but it's only because you're looking at numbers that are sort of worrying you and making you drive differently. I remember I had a race where I was coming into the last couple laps, so I thought, I can really back off now, and because I changed my driving, I started driving slower. I had a big gap, I wasn't going to lose a position, but because I changed how I was driving, I had an off. Because I came out of my rhythm.
Yep.
And I started overthinking things. Because I didn't want to push, I thought I'll drive slow. It actually took more brain work to drive slower, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you, and I'm sure Brian will probably agree as well. It does. It's a mind game, and you're playing a mind game with yourself. And it's, I think 9 times out of 10 you are just better getting on with the driving and dealing with what happens rather than anticipating and sort of driving to what the sim is telling you should be happening, sort of thing. If that makes any sense. But I'm sure you'll agree with me there, Brian.
Yeah, when you start to relax, it goes wrong. When you get too many details, it goes wrong. But it's down to the feel of the car. I mean, as you said, Steve, it's going to be interesting. Pit window is going to be closing very soon, because as far as I remember, the GT3s are sort of like an hour and 5 minutes. So within the next 8 minutes, you should have more or less all the GT3s through, and you still have these top two really chasing each other hard. But which tires are they going to be on? Because as Steve said, it's 30 minutes from now. It looks like rain again. So are they going to go in slicks? Going to have a 40-minute sprint and then going back into the pits, going for full wets, coming out again? This could change the leaderboard all around.
It would only take one wrong call, and you've only got to be out there for one lap on the wrong tyres, and it could wreck your race, especially if you have a spin, being out there on slicks thinking that the dry line is just enough. made a mistake, it can wreck the race. And these two have got everything to lose. They've pulled out a huge, almost 20-second gap now on Ambrunosa, car number 33. But I wonder if Vidago just thinking, I can make this overtake during the pit stops. I don't need to risk contact or putting my nose somewhere and a door being slammed in my face. I could just have a shorter, quicker pit stop.
Well, you're posing, maybe unbeknowingly, you're posing the other question there, aren't you? Driver swap race, do you double stint it? Do you come back out? Does Vidago come back out? Does Kennedy come back out? Or do you hand over to another driver? And if you hand over to that other driver, there's different skill sets in the team. Maybe Kennedy's the quicker of the drivers. I'm not sure. Maybe Vidago's the quicker of the drivers. But also, how fast can a new driver get up to speed? Because that's something that I personally always struggle with. I need 2 or 3 laps to get going. And I was just seeing there as somebody's on the grass and off track trying to get past some cars, looking a little bit sketchy there in the BMW, the number 21 BMW, making up those places now and getting those laps put on the Gt4s, but that all looked a little bit delicate.
Yeah, you thought you'd think they would see that huge, mighty beamer coming up behind them, but when you've got a rearview mirror just full of bright lights, it is hard to tell. And if you're not looking at the driver ladder, it's hard to tell who's behind you.
It is indeed, but I can tell you now that the lead has changed.
And we've missed that.
We missed it, but the lead has changed. Vidago is out in the lead right now, but Kennedy has gone into the pits. So Kennedy's hit pit lane, but Vidago, I believe, took the lead before that happened. So I'm wondering if Kennedy's just reacting now because he's lost the lead. He was defending as long as he could, holding Vidago up as much as he could because it was obvious Vidago did have the pace. But now he's lost that lead. He's maybe decided to take that pit stop.
Do we get replays on Simsport Racing?
Not on this stream, unfortunately. We do on others, but not on this one, unfortunately, on this occasion.
So that on-track action is lost to the gods. We will just have to speculate and put together from the evidence we have to speculate what happened. Did he make the pass on track? Did he just think, I'm going to, go for an extra lap, get a couple hot laps with an open track in front of me, and then make my pit stop?
Yeah, I mean,
chair.
Yeah, that'd be me. Hands up. Need some WD-40. Matthew Kennedy just exiting the pits now, back out on track in a safe 3rd place, not far behind Abranosa, who's in that 2nd place, but has yet to pit. Vidago well clear up the road at the moment. Vidago, for me, how much fuel will that BMW have left in it? Will he be able to put many laps in, and more importantly, will he be any quicker than the P3, who I believe has got Rob Mulderink in the hot seat now driving? I think they have swapped drivers.
I think Kennedy's down to 6th, actually, isn't he? The driver table took a moment to update. He's down to 6th place. So the pit stop, judging by everybody's gaps, the pit stop took about 50 to 60 seconds.
Yeah, well spotted. He was stationary in the pits for 25 seconds, so 37 seconds driving down the pit lane. So yeah, it's taken just over 60 seconds for that pit stop.
And Vidago's going for another lap, so either he's got a bit more fuel on board, or this is just all part of the master plan that they had anyway, and it was always intended that they'd go longer. So we don't know if it's a sort of direct reaction to just do the opposite of what Kennedy was doing, or if this was the plan all along. I mean, when you're racing, if this was your race, would you prefer to be the first to pit, or would you go for a longer stint?
I'd drive my own strategy. I think that's what you've got to do, unless you are absolutely forced to change by the fact that you can't get past somebody and it's going to be quicker to stop, or you pick up some damage. But if your strategy is to go long, you just go long, and that's what Vidago will do. I think he'll run that car until literally either the tyres fall off or he runs out of fuel, and I think it'll be the fuel that will affect him first. It'll be interesting to see the lap times as they're going round now. Vidago's still doing his last lap was a 2:10.6, which is a bit slower. I know his best is a 2:08.8, but it would be interesting to see and to see what Kennedy does A little bit further back there is his best to 208.7 as well. But you know, with a bit more fuel back in the car, Vidago's going to be running lighter. But it'd be interesting to see what happens and to see what the lap times are, how they compare.
Yeah, Vidago's last lap, I did notice he sort of almost outbraked himself into the Casio triangle. I think he was just trying to clear some Gt4 cars, so that wouldn't have hurt his lap time at all. So Kennedy's last lap was a 2-minute 45, and the one before that was a 2:31. But that's obviously the end of one lap was in the pits. The beginning of the next lap was in the pits, so not a true reflection of his pace. So, given if he's gone back to a full tank, would he be lapping in the 2-minute 13s again? Do you think?
No, I think the conditions have dried up a little bit, so I think he'll be a bit quicker than that. But I don't think he'll have the legs to be as fast as Vidago, because I don't think that pit stop changing tyres in ACC is a 30-second job, and he was only stationary for 25. So I'm not sure, unless something's changed in the update. Maybe the chat can correct me if I'm wrong, but I still think it takes 30 seconds to change a set of tyres. So with a 25-second stop, it would indicate that he maybe hasn't changed tyres.
Denise will tell us. Denise Pope's quite an expert in ACC and sort of runs a very smart Wild Things racing team. We've seen a lot of success, if I'm right, in ACC as well, as we're riding on board with Matthew Kennedy. No, he's not having a disco rave in there. That's just the circuit lighting illuminating the circuit, and the sort of interior lighting has got a nice purple hue. So he's gone for some of the RGB lighting that you find in your computer, and he set it for a nice calming purple, as he's got the... I thought he was about to lose the back end there as I was talking utter crap.
I've told you I've got a bit of a winter flu, so don't make me laugh because I burst out into a coughing fit and I'm no good to anybody. But yeah, Vidago's still putting in the times. Kennedy, I'm sure he'll come out. But I mean, when you look at it realistically,
oh, and Kennedy's off. He just got a bit of oversteer coming out. He's put his foot down a bit early, and I will say that the blue light does mean he's got his high beams on. It's just coming across purpley in my feed, so, and my head just went to RGB geeky PC lighting. But yeah, so Kennedy doesn't have the on-track reference now of Vidago. He doesn't know what lap. He'll know roughly what lap Vidago's putting in, but they're not on track together to compare to each other. So I think Vidago's gonna have his pit stop and maintain the lead when he's done. Am I right, or am I gonna be wrong, Brian?
Well, when you're just looking at the weather forecast, it actually seems like the rain is going to be able to come back within a few minutes, and we know Kieran hasn't had a pit stop yet, so I'm guessing he's going to take it as far as possible and then still swap to rain tires. Maybe Kennedy is actually struggling because he swapped to slick tires and doing a short pit stop before he actually do a driver change. So looking at it within 10 minutes, we should have full rain again. So maybe that's just one of the strategies they're running.
Yeah, and I'm going to answer one of the questions you asked earlier. Kieran Vidago's last lap was a 2:08.5. Kennedy's was a 2:10. So got a good second and a half quicker than Kennedy at the moment. So Vidago, potentially, if he can keep that pace up, then yes, definitely, if he pits, he'll come out in front of Kennedy. But like Brian said, it just depends. Unfortunately, we don't know what tyres they're on. It doesn't tell us in the sim. We don't have that information anywhere. But as I say, I don't think Kennedy has swapped tyres, because I don't think he was stopped long enough in the pits.
Although something's happened, because he was right behind. He was right on the rear wing of Volkering, and he's just dropped a few seconds behind him. So yeah, he was 0.2 seconds behind Volkering in the McLaren, and now he's 3.8 seconds behind. So I don't know if he's gone to slicks and he's had another wiggly moment.
He's had some
technical
sort of
term.
incident. He's had some sort of incident because he's about 2 seconds down on his personal best lap time. So he's really struggling at the moment. He's losing time hand over fist. He's 2.5 seconds down. So you're quite right. Something's going wrong with him somewhere. He's losing time. But Kennedy is struggling. He's fighting on. He'll keep going. I mean, let's not forget this is one of the drivers, I believe, from the Spa 24-hour race, one of the winners.
He was.
So you know he's got pedigree. He's proven he can do it. He can be part of that winning team. And you know, let's just see how things unfold in the next hour and a half. We've got 1 hour 31 minutes left of this race as we're just looking at another car in the pits.
There's Dominique Guis. I apologise. I was about to say his team name, but we're now with Versaveld.
Just hearing in chat that Kennedy is on wets now, but had a half spin in traffic trouble. So car's still okay, but he just lost the time with a bit of a half spin.
I pressed the wrong mute button and then cleared my throat, so apologies, you all heard that. I muted the microphone on my headset, forgetting I'm using a USB snowball mic. So that was brilliant.
But wondering, how much fuel does this BMW actually use? Because he hasn't been into the pits yet.
This is an unknown, Brian, but yeah, I wouldn't expect him to be honest. The race has been going less than an hour, and all the cars within ACC can run just over an hour with fuel. Again, the update has changed things ever so slightly, and I think the thirstiest cars used to be the Mercedes. That was one of the thirstiest, and that used to be one of the first to have to pit around about 60 minutes or just under on full map, as it were, the most aggressive map. But yeah, so I think Kennedy's pit stop was an early pit stop by any means. And whether those tactics are going to play out, I'm not sure. But if they are to play out, they need to not make any more mistakes.
Here's a driver we've not talked about much, really. He's just been having a happy race on his own. He's getting a little bit squirmy here and there, but Carlo Rettig, I mean, no news. You know, he's not done anything wrong. I suppose, you know, no news is good news. It means he's kept it on the track. He's not done anything spectacularly wrong. But he's just been having a happy race on his own, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, absolutely, and that's the best thing to do. Sometimes we often say when we're commentating, when we're broadcasting these races, the drivers that you don't talk about are doing the best job because they're just staying under that radar, they're driving around, they're doing what they need to do. But what's happening now is he's very much on the radar, and he's on Matt Kennedy's radar, and he's looking to take that position off him as he's closing in on him, and he's you know, a good half a second a lap or so faster than him at the moment. And as we see him coming into turn 11, the hairpin, he's really closed up on the back of him now. And Kennedy's going to look to try and get the drive through turn 12 and see if he can get any closer. But it's looking like Rettig in the McLaren has just managed to get the better drive out of that corner.
I mean, they're all different. Sorry, Brian.
No problem. I was just about to say, talking about the BMW and Kian Vidago, he just set another fastest lap.
He did.
Low fuel, used tyres. Oh, what's not like?
Amazing what he's doing. It's amazing what he's doing. I was gonna say, does Rettig fight and hold for this position, or does he just, you know, let Kennedy go because they're clearly on different strategies? He's really almost braked a bit too late anymore, and he would have been in the green stuff. But you know, does he need to fight for this? They're on different strategies. Kennedy's had a pit stop, Rettig hasn't. So in truth, there is a gap between them.
I must admit that not being 100% sure, but I actually think that
that's answered my question. He's not going to let that go, is he?
No, he's fighting for track position at the moment, and you know, who knows, if in a sprint race you may think differently, that maybe, you know, this isn't my battle, let him go. If you've only got one pit stop to make, these guys have got a couple of pit stops at least to make. And Rettig, while he holds Kennedy up right now, who knows, come in another sort of 90 minutes, just under, towards the end of the race, if Kennedy makes some mistakes and Rettig doesn't make any towards the end of this race, this could actually be a battle for position. So I think Rettig's doing the right thing. He's battling him. It's legitimately at this moment in time for track position. I mean, as we've said, Kennedy, he's pitted well out of line with everybody else in the GT3 class at the moment. He pitted very, very early for whatever their strategy is, whatever reason that was. So yeah, Rettig's well within his rights to hold him up, and what this is doing is helping Vidago at the front, who, to be fair, I don't know if he needs any help. He's done a 2:07.9. So there you go. Up on the screen right now, he's a 2:07.9, and he's just so quick. But this is going to help him now. Rettig is holding Kennedy up. Kennedy's struggling to get past. Rettig is defending hard, and I think he's got every right to do so.
Yeah, but I actually think that Mark Kennedy and Leah Hanner made a mistake with the pit stops, because they're actually the only ones doing a pit stop by now, and the other seems to be going. So are they actually looking to lose out because they have to make?
Oh, he's got the job done there, Brian. Look.
Sorry
to cut across you there, but that was a brave move as he went down the inside of 130R, and he got the job done. He managed to keep it on the track. Rettig tried to hold it around the outside, but around the outside at 130R is a very brave thing to try and do, and it just wasn't quite right as they come around turn 18 now onto the start finish straight. And Kennedy's got that job done, got that position away from Rettig.
You know it's a good move when you've made the commentator go up several octaves in his voice. That's always a sign. If you made Murray Walker do that, it was a sign of a good move.
He couldn't go any higher. He was already there.
That was my injection of excitement into the stream, guys. Thanks for your support.
You're welcome. Once is defending into turn 1 against Van Dissel, and Van Dissel, is he going to do it around the outside of turn 1? He's holding on in there. Great respect between these two drivers. There's been no door rubbing, unlike the British Touring Car Series. And Van Dissel's got the job done. Really quality driving there. Nothing more to say. Just that was really quality overtake round the outside. I don't often see people make overtakes around the outside at Suzuka in the wet, as Eric Neville's having another sort of safari excursion, sort of checking out the wildlife out there.
Yeah, that's the high vis car. I think he's just checking out a few manholes on the outside of the track, doing a bit of maintenance as he goes round in the track car. He's just struggling to keep it pointing in the right direction. The Alpine there is, good little car is the Alpine. It's usually in the dry conditions, it's pretty quick through the twisty stuff. I'm not quite sure it's the quickest GT4 in a straight line, but in these conditions, it's a bit of a leveler when it's wet like this. It's it probably could be a little bit higher up, but these guys are not doing too bad. What are they? First, second, third, fourth, fifth in GT4s. Sorry for doing the live count back there as I'm looking, but they're currently around about 5th in GT4s, I think. So great driving from them and keeping us entertained.
How many cars have we lost? Any drivers so far? I mean, it's car 29's in the pits, but Instructor's got it all wrong. Oh, he's got it all wrong coming out of the spoon curve. Oh my goodness! No. Oh. Now I'd say that was a dangerous rejoin, but he wasn't rejoining the track. He was already on the track.
Yeah, the rules would state you hold the brakes and you stay still, and you let the other cars go around you. You give them the option to move around you rather than you moving. You just become a moving obstacle instead of a stationary obstacle. So yeah, that was his fault, 100% in my eyes.
Just trying to catch who it was who. You have to, in a split second, pick which way you're going to go, and he picks.
It's also
right. It was a Maserati.
It's also about getting the information what actually cars are coming. If he doesn't get that, he can only see from the headlights if it's clear enough. And we're talking about the last corner coming out into the back straight. People are coming in 3rd gear full out, so the cars are actually approaching quite quickly. So if he doesn't get any feedback from the team, it's difficult to say when he should actually move.
Absolutely, it's reminiscent of Vettel getting it sideways at the second chicane at Monza. Its name eludes me right now, but he was sideways in the chicane, wasn't he? And then he pulled out forward because you can't see left and right like in out of a Formula 1 car. And likewise, if he's only got a single monitor set up, or likewise, I can't quite tell what his eye view would have been, but he wouldn't have been able to see to the right of him. So he would have just seen, right, there's no headlights, I'll go now, and just timed it a little bit wrong.
If the teammate is not actually able to help with some live timing or something, it's very difficult to see where you are, other than what you have visual with the lights or something like that. So it's there was no touch. He went off road. I didn't think he touched the barrier or anything, but it was close, definitely close.
So I'm trying to work out, was it Stricker who?
I believe so. The black Alpine.
Yeah, his. So it doesn't look like he's not has he? So he's understeered at Spoon curves. A lap after hitting that wall, has he? So he might have some front damage that's causing him some real understeer. So if they've not pitted already, it might be worthwhile going into the pits now.
Yeah, absolutely. But look at 2.4 on screen. I mean, like we said right at the beginning, he had the issues early on. He was pointing the wrong way at the side of the track, and he's now up to P9. So he's having a really good comeback drive in the number 69 Mercedes. Just
nice.
Keeping his head down, making his way forward, and just 8/10 off Strichter in that P8 at the moment. And if Strichter's got any damage or he's damaged his tyres in any way, because again, we keep talking about it. I've not driven the new tyre model, but apparently it's a lot more sensitive to temperature change, which includes driving the car too high, sliding the car, spinning the car. You can affect the car's handling dramatically for a few laps until the temps settle down again. So maybe that's what Strichter might be struggling with.
And you see the rain now. You see the track being damp again, so it definitely got the rain back. So
yeah, the track's gone back to wet, Brian.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, it actually says wet.
Wipers are back on.
Yeah. So if Kieran is going into the pits, they probably not not as I did in the 24-hour race, trying to attempt to.
He's going to be 8th in a minute.
Make an outcome, but they would actually win the race on one less pit stop.
So Horst moves up to 8th place.
It's just amazing how Kieran, he's done an hour and 20 minutes, and as far as I know, he hasn't been into the pits yet. So
yeah, absolutely. But yeah, just echoing there, Cammy mentioning obviously 2.4 managing to get that job done, get up into 8th place, and he'd be looking for his good friend down the road, Patrick Wanst, who's unfortunately for 2.4 is 15 seconds up the road, so he's got a bit of a job on there now. Just reading in the chat, Leo Hovenden, Kennedy's teammates saying our strategy lottery hasn't hit the mark today. No clue how this will play out for us in the end. And then he starts throwing the driver's book of excuses at the YouTube chat. Neither of us have had almost any practice in these conditions before the race. So
there we go. Kennedy's caught back up with Volkering, another driver, as I said with Rettig, another driver we've not touched on too much. He's just had a quiet race. And Patrick Wanst was going so well in the Pulse Motorsport BMW, but he's just lost it for the Casio Triangle. Such a shame. I'm guessing he's come through 130R and maybe had a bit of a tank slapper. But that is a shame.
That's a shame, but to Horst, he's going to be thinking, whoa, that relative's coming down now. And that's going to be the red flag to the bull for him to be thinking, there's P7.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. When you see people ahead of you making mistakes, you see those gaps coming down, it helps you settle down if these drivers aren't already settled into their routines. Say, Vidago's really, nobody's more settled than him at the moment. He still holds the fastest lap of the race. As we're on board the bonnet, or hood, as our colonial friends would say.
Just say that again for me, Cammy. The hood.
The hood. Not the hood you live in, but the hood on a car. Yeah, I overpronounce things, don't I?
Sorry.
I say something, whereas I know my sister says something. So I think I just I really try to avoid doing that sort of thing. But looking back from Mikael Volkering's Jensen Team Rocket RJN McLaren, he's had a quiet race to himself. Car number 2, maybe he didn't want to be so smug and big-headed to pick car number 1, but he's holding off Kennedy very well at the moment. Can I fact check with somebody else? Has Volkering had a pit stop yet?
I don't believe he has.
No, he hasn't. No, he's not pitted yet.
As far as I know, the top Gt3 drivers, the only one pitting is only Mark Kennedy.
And he's doing well to come back up through the field. It just shows the speed difference between Vidago and Volkering and the rest.
Yeah, I mean, just to touch on the lap times, Kennedy's and Vidago both now back down into the 2.11s now that the rain started to fall again. In fact, Kennedy's last lap was a 2:13, so he was
can't be on
considerably
slicks.
slower than Vidago. But
Oh.
Abranoza and
Volkering had a wobble.
yeah, Volkering and Abranoza are in the 2:13s and 2:14s respectively. Should I say? Sorry. So yeah, they are they're in a different league. Vidago and Kennedy at the moment with the lap times. Although Kennedy's last lap, I think he's getting held up a little bit.
I was going to say, I think Volkering held it.
But bear in mind what second drivers they're winning in the pits. For Kieran, we got Aaron Pilko, and for Mark Kennedy, we got Leo Herevenen. Sorry, my Finnish isn't that well or that good, but it's from previous experience. These are two fast drivers, so this not saying Leo is that quick, but he's quick enough to make a difference.
We've got Bjorn Renard facing the wrong way. He very neatly pulls a 180 there, faces the right way. I think he's just heading under the bridge and coming up to the hairpin turn. No, I was completely wrong. Coming up to Spoon Curve.
Yeah, he took a little bit too much. He took a little bit too much curve in the last corner, trying to get some time. We all know it. We all been there.
Sorry, I'm just hearing from our race director, Volkering's been off. So, has he been? Yes, the driver ladder's not updated, but it looks like Kennedy has gone through to take that third place back, and Volkering's recovered, but he may have dropped down to 5th. So he's lost out to Carlos Rettig as well. Yes, he's right behind him now. The two McLarens, the same car, so equally matched. The only differences will be down to their individual car setups and who has set their car up better for Suzuka and who can hold their nerve on the wet track better. But Volkering, after that spin, it gets you out your rhythm. You can become a little bit paranoid that you don't want to do it again as he watches Carlos Rettig just get a bit of a slide on. And, you know, it looks impressive, it looks great, but it's not the quickest way around the corner.
It's not, no, and that McLaren is going to have the speed on the other McLaren because he got the drive out of the corner and he gained that position very, very easily. That was job done at corner exit. It was all over at the point that the back end of Rettig's car let go a little bit.
And apologies, Rettig, I called you Carlos. Your name is Carlo. So when are we putting down any bets for when we think Vidago will make a pit stop? I mean, I'm amazed he hasn't run out of fuel yet.
I wouldn't have said that he had to go in a couple of laps ago, to be honest. It's amazing he can keep it going. I mean, 1 hour 25 minutes and he's still racing. And he's not gone in. No. So another lap for him. So yeah, it definitely seemed like tire change, full wets, driver change.
Yeah, it's been going 1 hour, 1 hour 10 minutes, Bryce. Sorry.
1 hour 10 minutes. Yeah, but still,
next 5 minutes, I would say, within the next sort of 2-3 laps.
Yeah.
And the rain's only going to get heavier.
Yeah, so it's going to be perfect coming into the pits, getting a driver change, getting a fresh set of tires on. So yeah.
And we've got Jordi Bakker, the AAA. He's facing the wrong way. I think there's a Spoon Curve. That's been catching a few drivers out. So it's the long 100. Well, it's almost a 360-degree turn because 180 turn. You sort of coming back the way you were facing. It puts a lot of strain on the right side of the tires. As we've got Bjorn Renard off. He's off again, but yeah, if their right-hand side tires are going off and, all the load is on that side of the car.
It must be down to tire wear and the more damp conditions going into wet conditions now. So we'll probably see, as Steve said just a bit earlier, that the pit stop window for generally most of the cars is going to be open within just a few minutes now. And they'll be able to piggyback off each other and getting the race done without a further pit stop where we got Mark Kennedy and Leo Hernaven have to do another pit stop. And as Leo said earlier in the chat, that actually do a little bit of a miscalculation regarding the pit stop strategy.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to just pick up on that point, Brian. You know, Vidago basically and the rest of the guys that have stayed out have turned it into a one-stop strategy race now, so they'll literally just be swapping. This will be Kieran Vidago's stint over when he does pit, and Pilko will get in that car and he'll be in it till the checkered flag.
Yeah, and you got Pilko. I mean, I'm knowing Pilko, he's going to be just as fast as Kieran, so it's going to be a tough race to the end. But it looks like Mark Kennedy and Leah Hervenen. Sorry, we have to find a nickname for this guy.
Brian, you had one job, Brian. One job.
I know. Sorry. I've been studying my Finnish language all night, but I just can't get it wrong. I can't get it right. But it seems like two quick guys, as we saw, Mark and Kieran having a great battle for 10 laps, or well, at least 10 laps. So it's too bad to see, but yeah, down to the practice, as Leo said, they didn't have much practice time. Yeah, that's the way it goes.
Just to answer the question, Denise, there is no stint timer per se, as in like in normal endurance races, the longer ones, we say it's 65-minute stint times. In this one, it was basically zero stint time, as it were. You can drive as long as you want, but a driver can only do a maximum of 110 minutes in the car, and they obviously have to do one driver swap. So basically, one stopping will satisfy all criteria, and that they can go to the end on that one stop.
Steve, don't forget Chris Hill's question.
Oh, Chris, is he asking questions? Oh, Brian, what is your name?
Does
His name is Does
he want to have my Finnish name or my Belgian name?
What was your French?
Ooh.
My French name is Brian.
He is in Discord with us, but he's muted. He doesn't want to speak this evening.
Steve, to be honest, we muted him. We talked to him earlier, and we decided to mute him altogether, didn't we?
No. You. He's filling out the legal forms at the moment for bullying, Brian. You're on your own with that one.
Oh.
He's here, Chris. Welcome to the chat, Chris. As we just seen there, Renard is off again.
And it's the same corner, spoon curve. Was that the spoon curve? No, sorry, it's turn 1. So it's the other side of the car loaded up. And he's getting wiggly again. He's not having a good time out there. Just pit and hand over to your teammate, buddy.
It's about that time, to be honest. It looks like, but still, yeah. Weather forecast is still saying full wet, rain. So yeah, that's the only right way to go into the pits, get some new tires on, and do the rest of the race.
So Brian, you're saying about Finnish and French. Where are you from?
I'm actually from Denmark.
And does who would be Denmark's sort of motorsport hero?
Well, at the minute we got a couple of Danish teams racing in this in here tonight. I actually had a good turnout for the 24-hour races, Spa, and almost had a Danish team in third place. Actually, it got decided within the last 45 minutes of the race on the 24-hour of Spa charity race. So, but I must admit, we had Kevin Magnussen in Formula 1 for Haas, and I think he did a great job with the car and the means he had. And it's always the question, if he had the Mercedes or if he had the Red Bull, would he do better? Would he do worse? You never know. I think he's a great talent, and he's moved on for the endurance for Peugeot this year. Next year, sorry.
You've got some support in the chat from Oliver Andersen saying Danish power, Denmark.
I wondered when Oliver had chirped talking about Denmark.
We were talking to Oliver actually for the 24-hour race, and he actually promised some pizza. I haven't seen anything yet, so I didn't know how much love I had to give out to these guys because they didn't actually give something back to me. So
now Brian, as a Danish speaker, I've been to Denmark a few times.
Right.
Tell the English-speaking world what the word speed is in Danish.
They wouldn't understand. They wouldn't.
So-
If you've been to Denmark, if you know it, you know as well as me. They wouldn't understand if I told them.
I'll say it.
Because it's a sort of it's a letter you don't have in the English language.
Oh, really? Because I
Well,
remember seeing it on road signs and it looked like the word fart. And I was told that meant speed.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
I wasn't lied to, was I?
Well, maybe a little bit.
You're listening to Simsport Racing with top quality commentary by Cammy, Brian, and Steve.
Can I just distance myself from that last statement?
Steve,
Oh.
do you have any motorsport heroes?
My motorsport is all used to be motorcycles back in the day. Been an old fart. Two-stroke motorcycles, Kevin Swance, Wayne Rainey, Gardner, Doohan, all those guys, really knew how to handle a bike and something that was trying to kill you at every corner. So the old Senna, Prost, Mansell, the old Formula One guys that I think really had some skill and some talent to master cars and muscle cars around that didn't have the driving aids, didn't have the assistance that they've got these days. That's not to say that these guys aren't very, very skillful, very, very talented.
Sorry, Mansell, by the way, who drove the most technological advanced driver-aided car in history, yeah?
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. With all the aids that really worked very well, yeah.
Well, Senna
but-
actually did a couple of years later, didn't he?
Yeah, he did a couple of years later, but I mean, we're talking in the early days, and I think it annoys me when people start saying, oh, Hamilton's the best ever driver. I don't think you can compare them. I think Hamilton's the best of his generation,
No.
as we just seen there. BMW off a long way off onto the sand and back onto the track in P9. But yeah, I think to start comparing the drivers is a little bit unfair. I think because they're just different technology, different cars, different era.
How much?
Oh no!
Rocket.
So we've got the Team Rocket car facing the wrong way. I'm just trying to identify. So it was at 2.4hrs. So they've had a driver change. Kevin Huyemans.
Yeah, that's right.
There's so many European names. As an English speaker, I'm tripping up over all of them. But they've had a driver change. Kevin Huyemans is taking over, but maybe not quite settled in yet. So I think he lost a place or two there as well. But he needs to just get settled into his accommodation for the next hour and 5 minutes. Says he's lost the back end. It's all starting to unravel, and they're having such a quiet race. It's all starting to unravel. Kevin Vidago and Abrinoza, they're still not letting go of their driver's seat at the moment, but say they don't have to change over just yet. Kevin might be getting an earful from his teammate now.
No, I mean that Vidago and Abrinoza have done, coming up to just over an hour and 20 minutes. So my prediction of coming in the next 5 minutes was out. They're staying out even longer, so must be doing really well on the fuel. I mean, I suppose in the wet conditions they will have changed the engine map down as well. I mean, I feel a bit amateurish probably missing that fact, but they're probably running different engine mode, which is probably slightly more economical as well.
That is true, yeah.
They would have done, Steve, to be honest. I mean, also with different traction map, different acceleration maps, they would have, because you can race these. You can race.
Sorry, Brian, that's Patrick Wance's teammate just off there as well. And I just saw my other screen, Retrig in P4 has just been off as well, and it was off for a long time. He was facing the wrong way and had to turn it around and get back on track. So he's lost some time. And there is P10, and he's off, and he's again having to turn around and step out, squeeze on there. That was a bit close.
I was wondering why he wasn't just getting going. It looked like he was sitting there just contemplating his career for a moment, and then decided, yeah, I will keep being a race driver, and nearly took out the BMW. And it's no driver.
Vidago's in the pits. Vidago is pitting.
Vidago is pitting. Headline news as Enim Damed is off again. So I think once you've made one mistake, it's so easy to just make a handful of mistakes. Was that Kennedy in the pits as well? Has there been a driver change? And
The
we had
number 2 McLaren spun again.
Hoojemans. Kevin.
Yeah, sorry
Just
for the
calm
sound
down,
effects.
Kevin.
I'm just getting as excited as Kevin, I think.
Careful your heart.
But we have got Mike Abranoza, who's not yet pitted, so he's in a temporary race lead position. I'm sure he will be pitting very soon as Vidago's rejoining the track right now, and he's back. He's staying in P2, and he's a good chunk of time ahead of Kennedy still. We'll see what that time is. Probably get about half a lap away for the timing to reset itself and show us what that gap is, true gap is. Abranoza will have to pit very soon as again.
And again.
The number 2 McLaren off backwards again, and that's Vidago off the track, facing the wrong way.
Aaron,
that is
sorry,
a
that's
Pilco.
Pilco. That's Pilco. Yeah,
and he's been to the wall. Look at the
He's
front.
got damage. He's got damage.
So this is Pilkington, Vidago's teammate.
Yes.
First lap out.
And
wall.
And he hit the wall.
Has he improved the look of that front of that BMW? I don't think so. But it's really going to hurt. And Carlo Rettig, I thought he was just about to outbrake himself. And Kennedy is
back into the pits, yeah.
Back into the pits,
they needed to make a pit stop, we knew that. And they needed to make a driver change. So we got Leo, the Finnish guy. That's probably going to be the best text pronounced I can make. That's he's going to be back into the car now. And we know he's quick, so, well, let's see what happens with the next few laps when they settle down. Maybe he gets to grips with this weather.
So is this Kevin's first race in the series? I'm just sort of checking through his information history, and it's all zeros, which would suggest this is his first rodeo. And he's been thrown in at the deep end.
Well, to be fair, this is the first. It's one of 2 fun events for driver swaps. So this is the first round for this. So, but there are a few new names in here, as well as some of the older, more established names and teams that are out there as well. But
yeah.
I'm just wondering now with Pilkington, with the wet weather, you know, you can take a little bit of damage because the aero's not maybe quite as important sometimes because your lap times aren't there. You're not, you're just not pushing as hard, so you can maybe drive with a little bit of damage. We're not going to know how much damage is on there unless Kieran comes into chat. But we see him through the 130R, very wide, but not maybe quite as wide as Rhetoric is there into Spoon Curve, and he was well off the track there. But yeah, you're just pushing it. Be interested to see if he dives into the pit lane, which he's not doing. I'm just seeing on my other screen he's staying out on the track. So Pilco's driving with the car as it is and staying out. Abranoza's in the pits now, so that's Pilkington back up into the lead, I believe. So let's just see how the gaps. We're gonna have to watch for a couple of laps, see how the gaps settle out, see who's where, and then we'll see what sort of a lead Pilkington's got to defend, and we'll start to see his lap times and see how much we can maybe just start to second guess how much damage he's got on that car. The problem we've got is we don't have a true reflection of his lap times because he's not done any flying laps without the damage. He did that on his out lap.
Now we've got a lot. There's a sudden spike in the cars going off the track, and say these teammates coming on with, they don't have the track experience of what the car's been handling like for the last hour, so they're literally being thrown in at the deep end, and there's big puddles out there. And yeah, a moment ago, Brian sort of obviously made a sound of disapproval.
Yeah, it's well, you're coming into the car, wanting to do your best, and the car lets you down, basically. But again,
the driver blames the car.
Well, yeah, it's wet conditions, so normally everybody knows this in sim racing. When you have to do practice for a normal race, it's 25 degrees and sun is shining, so having to do this and having to come out, having to really tippy-toe around the track, just finding your rhythm, where can you push, which engine map can you actually race with without losing the car. it just takes a bit longer in these conditions than what normally would be.
We saw Bjorn going off again. I think he was just inspecting the barrier at turn 1.
I think he's got his track map inside out.
That might be the case for Kevin as well. So
Kevin again, yeah.
It's difficult to be, there's pressure when you've got to step up and right, I have to maintain the level of driving that my teammate's been doing for the last hour. But you're just jumping in there going, I don't know anything about how the car feels and how much I can put my foot down out of a corner. It all comes down to how much these guys have practiced in these specific conditions. And when we ran practice sessions for the Diamond Drive Cup, we just assumed the race would be dry, so we practiced in the dry.
But that's what we were talking about up to a couple of weeks ago with the 24-hour race, because this newest update from ACC came out just 4 days before the race. A lot of people have been doing a lot of practice, a lot of setup work, and then just before, actually the day before the first qualifying session, this update came out, which threw a lot of people into exactly how the car was handling, and had to do a lot of extra work before the race on Saturday started. And we heard from numerous drivers that the problem with the tire temperature and actually the front end of the car with the different settings for the setup was they had to tweak a lot to get it into the tire window. So, and as you said, Cami, when you do practice in 25 degrees, sunny, no rain, and when this happens, anything can happen.
It throws you a curveball.
Yeah.
You practice in the optimal conditions, because when you practice on your own, you practice in a different server. You just practice on the track. As long as you're on the same track, there's no correlation between the weather in one server and the weather in this server. It can be completely random. So it's not like real life where they just check the weather forecast. So that is one of the curveballs that sim racing can throw you. As I think that was Andreas Garlin. It was. And we're back with Michael Schubert. Now this is one of the teammates who I don't think he's had an off. Commentators curse. No, all the other teammates have had trouble adapting to the conditions and sort of getting quickly up to speed, as we see Benjamin Simmons having a little excursion. But yeah, look like Schubert's, he's doing all right. He's keeping it on the black stuff. Simmons really, just looking at that, I could see he was coming in too hot there. It's better to underestimate rather than, you can be a little bit under speed. And you
we
can
got
always
Aaron in the bits now.
Yeah, so is that repairing? So unless the damage was really making a difference to the performance of the car, if he really felt that understeer was hindering him, as Dennis Kurowski facing the wrong way, and he's going to try and we've got John Betten as well. Is there oil out on the track? There's oil out on the track. Has sim racing evolved that far where oil can be put down?
Just a quick update for you guys as well. Pilko has been into the pits. He's come back out now in P2, so he's still ahead, I believe, of Hovinen, who's in third. So he's pitted, and it must have been to repair that damage, I'm guessing.
What did I say about commentators curse? 1 minute after I said it, I'm sorry, Michael Schubert, you were going so well with Team Hot Air Balloon, but I cursed you and you had a little laugh. But it looks like you survived. The back wing looks straight and true. The spirit level will be very happy on that. So he's gotten away with it. And Pilkington's front end looks like that's been replaced. So I'm not going to say anything. I don't want to curse him, but hopefully he's got a 43-second gap, though, to Ambrinosa. Because of that unscheduled stop.
He's only got 1.8 seconds back to Hoivonen in third, though, so he's going to have to either get his foot down or he's going to have to defend. As you can see, the Lexus is coming into shop just behind him there.
Now, with the amount of offset, and he's very brave of it. See, in the wet conditions, I would say it's a good idea to stay off the curbs. They can be quite slippery in the wet. Not only that, it also unsettles the car. And when you've unsettled the car, weight is moving around as they both just didn't really try to make spoon curve there. But when you go over the curbs, it unsettles the car and grip moves from one tire to the other. And that's handleable when it's dry, but when it's wet, you don't want to be handling. You don't want to be dealing with that. Just keep it off the curbs, and you're only going to, where you think you might gain a fraction of a second by cutting the curb, you could lose 10 seconds by spinning it.
Yeah, 100%, and it's looking like Hoivonen at the moment has got the pace on Pilkington. Pilkington, obviously, his confidence has taken a little bit of a knock. He won't want to damage that car again, and he'll be looking to try and consolidate his position on the podium. I think any ideas of a win are out the window unless Abranoza makes a mistake, because he's 40 odd seconds up the road. For his eyes at the moment, Pilko's eyes will be very much back, as we're looking at Hugeman in 9th place now in that McLaren, looking to attack. Is that's a BMW ahead of him? Yeah, just couldn't quite tell.
Kaisa, he was getting very punchy, wasn't he? He had 2 wheels on the grass, which suicidally dangerous in these conditions. And I don't know if that was just he lost the place and was trying to get it back quickly, which isn't a great idea. Sometimes, especially given what's happened to him, it would be a better idea to just follow. Just chill, follow the car in front. He might pick up a thing or two. He might think, he might learn, so that's a better line to take through that corner in these conditions. Or maybe not, as the BMW immediately goes wide at spoon curve.
Yeah, and who knows what's going to happen, Cammy, because we are going through another weather cycle. Within the next 30 minutes, it's going to be dry again. We've got 50 minutes left on the clock, so we are going to see out this rain and go into a rain-free session. I won't say dry track, because the track will take a while to dry out, but we are going to see things start to dry up before the end of this race.
Leo Hirvanen's going very well at the moment, isn't he? He's he's taken P2 from Pilkington. I don't know if Pilkington had made a mistake or got a little bit sideways, but however it's done, he's taken that place, and now he's got a nice open track ahead of him. As I say that as a backmarker ahead, but he's just setting off after Ambranoza. As Bjorn Renard,
he's got the track map upside down now.
Yeah, if you've got one of those coffee cards where the 6th stamp of Bjorn's gone off for the 6th time, you get like a free coffee now. I don't know what I'm on about.
But he's certainly struggling in the conditions, but looking like we're now riding on board with Abranoza, as he's comfortably out in the lead at the moment. If there is such a thing, such a word as comfortable in these conditions, we've seen lots of mistakes. But Abranoza, before the pit stops, he's driven around pretty much under the radar. He's done what he needed to do, and he slips up into the lead due to other people's mistakes, it seems.
Yeah, Hirvanen's only just gone across the start-finish line. It flashed up like a 43-second gap. So whilst it's a huge gap, Ambranoza will be just checking to see how that changes lap by lap, whether it creeps up or whether it creeps down. And even if it creeps down, he's got a huge gap on it. It's all happening. We had 2 cars side by side, and now with Michael Schubert, who's had another off. Power of my curse, I'm sorry. But he's had another. It does seem to be the spoon curve that's catching a lot of drivers out, wouldn't you say, Brian?
Yeah. As you said earlier, maybe stay away from the curves coming into the corners. I think that's probably one of the chances is catching the people out. But it's still wet, and people want to get the power down and get on with it, but they have to really tiptoe around this track if they don't change the engine map for more smooth power delivery. I see a lot of damage to the front end of Thies van Weesveld. Didn't know if he hit the wall or not, but it definitely seems like something is trying to open out in the front of that car.
Yeah, he's lucky that in Assetto Corsa, the headlights just keep on working. Very likely if that was a real-life incident, he'd have both headlights out, and that could be the end of his race. He wouldn't be able to see where he was going, but in Assetto Corsa, they let you get away with that.
Yeah, but they're certainly battling for 12th place, so I don't think we'll see him in the pits. I think he wants to continue the battle for 12th place, and it doesn't look like it takes much for him to get past him.
No, he will be aware that Bjorn wasn't directly ahead of him a while ago. He'll be aware that Bjorn's had an off, so he knows that Bjorn might not be the toughest nut to crack. He knows that Bjorn might have, he's had a couple offs, so he's not so settled in the car, but say, judging by the front of the Aston, neither is this.
Yeah, let's see the straight line speed coming down to 130R. It's a bit off, but let's see how they go through the 130R.
Oh, I'm being corrected in the chat by Chris Hill, actually, because I've never had a night race in Assetto Corsa, but he's corrected me on the headlights can start to fail.
They can indeed. Yeah, you get some contact on the front end, and they usually start with a bit of a flicker, and interestingly, when you're braking or accelerating hard, they can actually turn off completely while you're doing that, and then they can fail altogether. So there's a degree of damage that can be applied to the headlights, which can make driving interesting in the dark.
We truly are in the pinnacle age of sim racing then, aren't we?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean,
I've never seen that in a sim.
Yeah, ACC is absolutely awesome. It's a fantastic sim, but so are many others out there. It all depends exactly what you're looking for and what you're used to, but ACC certainly is up there amongst the best at the moment. And with the latest update, there was a lot of, not criticism when it first came out, there was a lot of shock at how much it had changed the sim, and how I think the most upsetting thing, as Brian alluded to earlier, was that setups were literally throw them in the bin and start again. But once people have done that and they've got used to it, I think most people are unanimous in saying that basically it's improved it, and it's absolutely fantastic.
iRacing users well used to throwing setups in the bin. I've used iRacing for a few years. I haven't used it for the last 12 months, as I've sort of focused on my own art motorsport business, but it was very common that every few months, as we moved from season to season, the physics would change, they'd be tweaked, and setups would go out the window. So I was always certain that there was a conspiracy between iRacing and the companies that produce setups. You can keep them in business if they have to keep producing new setups all the time. So we've got Andreas Westkamp, and he's coming up to the Alpine, who earlier had the off-track excursions, O'Brien, but and we've got Kurowski. He doesn't look like he smacked the wall too hard. Maybe it was just a glancing blow at the angle he hit it. Has he gotten away with that?
Doesn't look like he's had too much damage, to be honest. Just trying too hard coming out of the hairpin corner, turn 9, so losing it over the curbs, probably over the curbs, but yeah, it's just one of them things.
Kevin's really on the attack now. Sorry, he's found a lot of confidence now. He's just poking his nose up the inside of Kaiser into the hairpin, and I thought it was going to be contact, but look at him go. He's really on the attack now, and so looking forward to what he can do in these last 43 minutes.
Yeah, hopefully. He has a few offs. We have seen him facing the other way a couple of times, but he should have the quicker car setup wise. So maybe he found a little bit of a confidence and being able to pass the BMW before the 130R.
Yeah, they just made contact there. I think he just wanted to move. He was moving back onto the racing line, but didn't realise he hadn't quite cleared the BMW. So it looked like there was a little bit of contact, and then the sort of reactionary flinch as he goes too deep into the Casio triangle. Kaiser takes advantage of that. They're side by side, but he maintains his position. So hats off to him. He's held it, and he held the car. He didn't lose the back end. So he's really found his sweet spot. But it doesn't look like Kaiser's gonna sit around and take it lying down. He's going to come back at him, and if he can't make it into turn 1, he's just going to apply the pressure through the S curves. Just looking at...
We had a talk with one of the guys from Canada for the 24-hour race, and he's amateur racer. I just can't believe or remember which car he was actually racing in, but we were talking to him during the race and asking him which sim was actually helping him the most with getting the car set up, realism towards how the car feels and stuff. And he said ACC was actually the best one, but the most input he was missing was actually just the input he got through his seat. So sort of like a butt kick system or real world feel. So that was quite interesting because that's always the big question between sim races and real races. That's which sim do you use? Which sim do you use to practice on? A lot of the big Formula One teams, a lot of big World Touring Car teams, DTM teams has got their own simulator. BMW's got a simulator too. I believe it's €250,000 standing down in Munich in Germany, where you actually have to book a time so you can come down and race. But it was quite interesting to hear that this guy we talked to from Canada, who's running the GT3 team, I believe, he actually said that ACC was actually one of the best sims around.
So I was just wondering if Versafeld had an off there. As the camera cut to him, he was just pulling away, and I don't know if he was just pulling away out of turn 1 or if he'd had a spin. But I was going to say, I've been in the W Series paddock before in their first season, and it surprised me that seeing their simulators, they use R Factor 2.
Yeah, I believe that's because the tire module from R Factor, because well, R Factor isn't the most beautiful sim, but it's been well known that for a long time they had a really good tire module simulating tire wear, tire usage, tire temperature.
Yep, R Factor 2. If you're not going to be pretty, you've got to be useful.
That's true.
I've only used R Factor 2 once in one sort of a championship series that E-Team Brit ran, and I wasn't even a fan of the physics, but that might have been the car we were lumbered with, which thankfully isn't in Assetto Corsa. As we've got Schubert.
Was it Schubert? Sorry.
It was Schubert, and I think the Maserati there of Nard Cox, I believe it was. Yeah, he sort of braked late because he realised what was happening and didn't want to have Schubert wedged into the side of his door. But they've both survived and fight on to live another day.
Yes, Mike, jump in for a chat, buddy. You'd be very, very welcome. Sorry, just answering some chat in YouTube.
Have we got a problem up in the top 3? I see Aaron has started 3rd place.
No, he's been there for a while, Brian. Have you? Sorry, just woke up, buddy. He's
sorry.
He got overtaken. Yeah, right.
Oh, right. Sorry.
Injecting excitement.
Brian was watching last week's stream. Sorry. No, Pilko he's in 3rd place. He's circulating round about the 2 minutes 14s, which is quick enough to keep him in 3rd, but it's not quick enough for him to be catching 1st or 2nd place realistically. But having said that, Leo is doing 2:12s, which is a couple of seconds a lap faster than Nelson Abranosa at this current moment in time. And speaking of Abranosa, we have Mike Abranosa, who is coming in for a chat with you and with Cammy and Brian.
Right.
All my Christmases have come at once.
Happy
Hello,
Christmas,
Mike.
Hey, how are you guys doing tonight?
Good.
We're
Waiting for you.
pretty well and relaxed and dry, but yeah, you've been out in the virtual rain, so
Yeah, it's been an interesting race. I wasn't expecting it to be, I guess, as wet and as random as it's been. So did the quali and at GT3s. I mean, I think we struck it lucky compared to GT4s. We had it dry, so managed to put it into P3. Which I think was stellar result, and started off, man, it was pitch black, couldn't see a thing, the spray was insane, so really the objective was just stay out of trouble, don't get hit, don't hit anyone. go from there. And I think there was an incident in front, so made a position there if I'm not mistaken. But then, yeah, Kieran was just like a rocket. He jumped, I think, P12 to P4 first lap, if I'm not mistaken. And he was on me in no time. And then, yeah, a little mistake into the final chicane. Dropped back a position. But then, yeah, had a stellar stint. I think the wet tires lasted, yeah, pretty much the whole hour 20 minutes. So the rain at the end of the sort of my stint, yeah, that was just like blessing in disguise. So here we are, leading the race somehow.
It's a marathon, not a sprint, and you've both been driving a very mature, sensible, clean race. You've kept it on the road where some first drivers have, but then they've handed over to their teammate, and their teammate's sort of been like just a duck being thrown into water. Sort of, it's taken them a few laps to find their feet in the big deep puddles, but Nelson's just taken straight over and not had any of those issues. So we were just wondering if it sort of, had you had more practice in the rain maybe than other drivers?
Yeah, I mean, I think we we tend to like these conditions. Somehow they just suit our driving style. It's a bit of a smoother driving style that we opt for, or try to attain. And yeah, Nelson's really great in the wet. So he's just holding the fort. I think there are faster cars on track.
Oh, sorry to interrupt you. We've
Yeah.
just had a bit of argy-bargy. We had a gaggle of cars. Oh, and right. The pictures speak for themselves, but we had a couple of GT4 cars there, Mihaly Yardi and somebody else off camera, can't see. I don't know if it was Andreas Garlin, but they were coming down into turn one. Neither of them wanted to yield. Sorry, it was Peter Munkholm. Neither of them wanted to yield, and it was just one, not even a hard impact, but it was enough to just...
It looked like there was a Gt3 coming into the picture as well.
Yeah, I've seen that on stream actually.
Damien, yeah, he came along afterwards. But yeah, we did have a gaggle of cars there, and they were just fighting over the same bit of tarmac, and it just didn't work out.
Yeah, so it's very much a patience game, right? And I've been behind a couple of the GT4s and noticed on some laps I've lost 10 seconds plus, but it's just like, you just got to be patient. It's really slippery out there, really tricky. It's changing all the time.
Sorry, Mike. I think we got big damage here for Peter Munkholm in the car 206. He's driving really, really slow. He was the one actually having a big incident into turn one.
Yeah, he's lost his headlights as well.
Headlights is gone, and it seems like front wheels are maybe not going the way. Oh, well, front screen is actually
Spiders have made a web across the windscreen.
I don't know if you're allowed to say it on YouTube, but it's done for repair.
It looks like a plasterer's radio.
Yeah. So sorry, Mike. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's cool. Looks like he's got quite a long way to go. So really unlucky for Peter there.
In the beginning of the lap, having to nurse it into the pits is going to be really long. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's really been the advice for Nelson. It's just like, take it easy. And sometimes he wants to go for it, and I'm like, just bear in mind, GT4s, they don't have the grip. Be patient. You sometimes lose 10 seconds, 11 seconds trying to overtake them through the S's, but you just got to be patient.
Yeah, but saying that, I mean, we got some viewers, and not that they actually asked the question, but I just want to ask it to you. Saying these tricky conditions, we got a wet race. When you actually load into the server, you have to load a setup to the car, yeah?
Yes, correct, yeah.
And you're not able to change the setup to the car?
You can change the setup until the point where you press drive, and once you've pressed drive, the setup's locked.
So when you actually, if you come into a pit stop, can you change the setup to the car?
No, you can't change the setup now, so not the race.
So the setup you start with from the beginning of the race is actually the setup you have to race with all the way through?
Yeah, absolutely.
Once you've made your bed in it, you've got to lie in it.
Yeah, but it's just, I was just I have some experience in ACC, but I didn't know if when you came into the pit stop and the weather changed from wet to dry, that you can actually change the setup. So that's, I mean, that's just why I was asking, and maybe some of the listeners were also eager to hear what sort of possibilities towards getting the setup changed.
Yeah, I mean, things that you can change on the fly really are your traction control, ABS, unless you're unlucky like Sam, he's got a car with no ABS or
Yeah.
TC.
Yeah.
You can change your ABS, your brake bias, and then of course your tires. I mean, we opted for a dry setup with a few changes, and wet tires. And it seems to have, worked really well here with these changing conditions. I think the rain is stopping in a few minutes. But we'll be able to stay on these wet tires probably to the end of the race, which is great.
But it seems like it's it's still red race, and it doesn't seem like the sun is coming out in the middle of the night. So I'm guessing we have to reckon with damp conditions for the rest of the race.
Yeah, I mean, given that it's 10 degrees, it's going to be wet, really till maybe the last 5 minutes. It might dry up a little bit, but yeah, it's wet tires all the way tonight.
Yeah, and we see Peter Munkholm is still limping back into the pits. First corner incident, and he's really struggling. Definitely not just only the front screen gone wrong, as you say, but it's definitely something to do with the telemetry on the front end of the car. So that's probably going to take a bit of time in the pits to get that sorted out.
Yeah, absolutely. Unfortunate for him.
Where on track he is, because I thought
he's just into the last chicane before the pits.
He is, isn't he? Yeah, it's taken him a long time to get round, hasn't it?
This happened.
Been working hard to keep the car off the race line.
Yeah, we've seen him a couple of times from Daniel. Actually, as you see the live feed now, he's actually limping home. I mean, it's
He's just like, I'm keeping away from him. He's damaged. I'm keeping away. I'm just going to cut the chicane.
Yeah, hopefully he doesn't miss the pit entrance, because that'd be gutting.
No, he's heading that way now, so I think he got it.
As long as nobody else is trying to pit at the same time as him.
Oh yeah, that would be mayhem.
Pile up, but well done, Peter Munkholm. You've nursed it, limped it back, and no, it would be easy to just hit escape and rage quit, but no, hats off to you, Peter. The determination to get it back, I think, should be applauded. And after all that, you're still not last.
Oh. You see him online now that he's really struggling with the car, just getting it turned in. So, right, Mike, back to the questions. I have another one. I was fortunate enough to comment on the 24-hour race, charity race, a couple of weeks back, and I know, and that's my problem. I don't know if it's you and Nilsson driving the car, which was in the race. Can you tell me?
Yeah, so Nelson and I were both driving. I think I drove the first part of the race. I started the race, the 24-hour, and then I did the stint in the middle of the night where I was chasing down Chris Pinchbeck and Kieran Verdago, and I think you were commentating on that battle at the time where I put the car up into P2, if you recall.
Yes.
So yeah, I drove that stint, and then Nelson drove some of the other stints in the race. So Nelson's actually my uncle, if you wanted to make the connection.
I wasn't sure. I mean, when I came into the lobby this evening, I saw the surname, and I knew I'd seen it before.
Yeah.
So and then I saw the sheet for actually the guys on the car. And there was actually two guys with the same surname. I was like, which one was actually in the 24-hour race? Because with 50 cars and with a minimum of three drivers per car, there was a lot of names having to be checked. So I wasn't sure
we tend to drive together.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, we tend to drive together a lot. So Team Abbey Racing was formed by Nelson, and so it comes really from the surnames.
Okay.
And yeah, that's us.
Do either of you have real-world racing experience?
Nelson has done go-karting, so he used to go-kart back in Zimbabwe, and I used to do mini motocross as a kid, but yeah, I don't do motorsport, real-life motorsport at the moment.
I mean, you
Just some
sound
racing.
pretty young now.
Oh,
You
yeah,
don't mind me asking, how old are you?
I'm 35.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
I thought
Sorry,
you were
sorry.
18. You sound so youthful and healthy. And when you said, "Oh, he's my uncle," it set up this.
Yeah.
You know, he's my uncle and I'm his little nephew. So it
Yeah,
set up that
absolutely.
dynamic. But
Yeah,
no,
no,
it's
Nelson's in his
fantastic.
Nelson's in his 50s, and I'm in my 30s.
Oh,
All right,
fantastic.
okay.
That
No,
is awesome. And it's a testament that
ah,
sim racing is for everyone, people of all
exactly,
ages. It's
exactly.
you don't have those physical limitations of
no.
Just be careful.
Yeah,
yes. Whenever I've
absolutely.
spoken to real drivers and said to them, which sim is the best, they always say, it doesn't really matter, but they just find that drivers are a lot braver in sims than they would be in real life.
Well, it's to be honest, it's good to hear. I mean, I'm 46. I've been doing a lot of racing. I know Steve is.
Give or take.
I wouldn't mention his age, but he's older than me.
I'm the baby of the group.
I mean, I know Steve for. Can I say a lot of years, Steve? Yeah, I can say a lot of
It's
years.
probably more than you can count now, Brian.
Yeah, I know. But I mean, we raced each other, and we had some awesome races. And I mean, on a good day, Steve was quicker than me. On a even better day, I was quicker than Steve. So, but it's also down to, again, for this community, about talking about real races, sim racing, and now we're talking about ages. I mean, this is it's just another. How can I say it? It's another information to people saying that it doesn't really matter how old you are. It's still possible to race quite competitive if you put in the time, and that's the most important thing about this. If you put in the time to get everything set up, car, steering wheel, pedals, screens, whatever you have, VR, whatever. But it takes a bit of tinkering to get everything set up, but you need to put in the time. You just won't start it up, set it on, and then go fast.
Yes, absolutely.
I know racing with a lot of the guys from Simsport, and we got Chris Pinchbeck. I mean, I helped him out a lot from the beginning when I started racing with him, when I started racing with Steve, and he was improving, but he wasn't improving that much, to be honest. But all of a sudden, he was fast. I mean, and he was one of the guys I know, and I know Steve will back me up on this, that he's one of the guys we know that he's actually done most practice laps of more or less anybody. That's
You
just
definitely see the
amazing.
benefit of doing practice. You know, the laps you put in and you get the result out at the end of the day. So, yeah, we were fortunate enough to get some wet conditions. It wasn't as wet as this, so at least we had an idea what we were getting into tonight.
So we
Right.
just had Andreas Westkamp was off the track again. He's had a few offs during this race. If you're not familiar, Westkamp is driving the sort of BMW that looks like a New York taxi.
The yellow one.
Which had the yellow one with the black checker marks. Yeah, he's had a couple of excursions. There we go. Green Moose Racing, but the car is yellow.
Yeah.
But he's got a 130-second time penalty as well. He's got to serve still.
Yeah, there's a time, so there's no real stint limit, but there is a stint limit, if that makes any sense. So typically a race will have like 65-minute stint. I think today's race had like a 1 hour 50-minute stint. I'm guessing he's just gone over that.
And Hop just picked up a stop-go 30-second penalty, but running in 25th place, 3 laps down from the leaders of the GT3 class, admittedly, it's probably not going to make too much difference to where he finishes the race. Frank Hop, he's just
it's been
really try to keep out the way of the GT3s there and just
Oh,
flinging
we're
it off the
gonna-
track. And
Madsen.
Michael Madsen, Revolution Sim Racing in the Porsche 911 blue and white, or 91991. He's had a quick off, but seems to have recovered. He's not a name that we've been talking about much this evening, so he must have been having a fairly good race all by himself before that happened. So if we haven't spoken about you, you've probably kept your nose out of trouble mostly. The race director, Dan, operating the cameras, hasn't picked you out.
Sleeping.
Yeah.
Right.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Really nice talking to you, Mike, and hope to see you in the future.
Yeah,
Because it
hope-
seems
thanks,
like
man.
the family name have to be carried on.
I hope
Yeah,
I get to race
absolutely.
you sometime as well. Yeah.
Well, yeah,
I
true
need
that,
to,
yeah.
I need
Will
to get
do.
a new VR set and get back into racing.
Sounds great. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Kemi, and catch you soon.
Catch
See
you
you later,
soon,
Mike.
buddy.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Steve,
Right.
I was just wondering if we'd ever raced each other or if you'd ever covered a race that I was in.
No, I had the good fortune, if you can call it that, to be the steward in the E-Team Brit R Factor series that you talk about so fondly.
Yes.
But I've not raced against you, but yeah, I was there behind the scenes handing out the penalties.
I don't think you ever handed me a penalty. I think I was one of the good drivers.
Yeah, I don't think
Good
so.
as
no.
in well behaved.
Yeah, well behaved.
We still got issues about that, Cammy, so don't go there. We're still working these issues out.
Oh, and Betton's had a spin and he's struggling to get it into the pits. He's nearly hit the pit wall as he was coming in, so he's really damaged the car. I think so. He would have just come out of the Casio triangle. He's really picked up damage. He could have made it a lot worse had he hit the dividing wall between the start finish straight and the pit lane. And we'll see how long. So this is undoing all the hard work that Beton Racing had put in earlier, and yeah, that's a bit of a cracked windscreen. And we're hearing that he had the meatball flag. Actually, when I did my racing driving license test, they didn't call it the meatball flag. They looked at me a bit funny when I called it the meatball flag. They just called it like the black flag with an orange spot. It was like I was speaking another language to them when I called it the meatball flag.
Just looking at that P2 as well, Ivan that was 16 seconds back from Nelson Ambrinosa, so he's if you remember when he came out of the pits, 43 seconds was the gap,
40,
so he's got that closed down to 16 seconds. That's some impressive lap times, and he's still lapping in the 2.11s at the moment. The leader Ambrinosa is lapping in the 2.14s, so we've got a good 3-second advantage on the last lap certainly for that car 2.47. So he's certainly putting some good lap times in. As Kieran Vidago points that out in the chat, and Denise Pope says, "Go Leo!" So we got some support for Leo, and Leo is certainly doing his best. He's doing his utmost to try and close that gap. Whether he's got enough time in 20 minutes left.
And we actually got Aaron in third place, lapping even quicker in 2:10.7.
But
yeah, Aaron's is finding his feet, isn't he now? But it's a little bit too late for him. I think he's 20 odd seconds behind, and Leo lapping, so consistently quick ahead. I think Aaron's just consolidating that third place.
But Leo might have turned the engine up to 11, and Nelson could be sort of on a lower engine mode, just conserving the fuel. It's hard to make a direct comparison, therefore, for their pace.
Well, we got Leo with an extra pit stop, haven't we? So he's got the possibility to turn the fuel load up. You should imagine, depending on if they fueled up or not. But they did an extra pit stop compared to the two other guys.
I don't think we'll know who for sure is in with a chance of winning till the last 5-10 minutes when it's clear who won't be making another pit stop.
Yeah, Pilco's been in the pits twice as well, Brian. Don't forget.
But,
it's only Ambrinosa that hasn't. Otherwise, Pilkington would have been clear leader.
Yeah, but did Aaron refuel? I don't think he did.
Oh, and we've got John Doe Germany just sheepishly rejoining. Right, no, you didn't see that. I wasn't off honest. He's rejoining the track. John Betton, he's come out and he's rejoined in 10th place after having the damage repaired, and hopefully his car feels brand new again, and they just don't put it in the wall again, John. But do cars, I'm not sure if in ACC when you repair damage, is it just sort of serviceable, or does the car literally go back to brand new state?
Yeah, it will go back to brand new state. It will it repairs panels and things like that. All the dents are removed and as if it's just come out of the body shop. I'm pretty sure that's the case.
because Versaveld, he's persisted with that crushed front for a while. He's obviously figured, I'll save time by staying out on track rather than sitting in the pits for 40, 50 seconds having the front replaced.
Yeah, I mean, the drivers just, I'm not sure if you're aware, Cammy or Brian, but basically they have a little display that, multifunction display, which they can toggle around to the pit display, and it will tell them how long a pit stop will be, and it gives them an indication of how much damage they've got to repair, so they'll know if it's going to add an extra 1 second or an extra 50 seconds for whatever damage they've got. Obviously they'll know how the car's handling, how it's feeling, and if it's only going to be 5 or 10 seconds for a repair but the car's feeling fine, in that scenario they wouldn't probably repair it, they'll just carry on because it's not worth that 10 seconds. They're not gonna, it's a case of weighing up whether the extra 10 seconds in the pits to repair the damage you're actually going to make up on the track. But if your lap times aren't suffering that much, then you're probably not going to make that 10 seconds back. So they have an idea of what the damage is, how long it's going to take to repair before they decide to repair damage, and then they have a little toggle box to say, a tick box to say, yes, repair the damage on the pit stop.
It's just quick maths as you're driving.
Basically, yes, and
Just
how the car feels to you as well.
Is it going to be economical for me to pit or just stay out on the track?
Yeah.
As a Versaveld, we've got a bit of a gaggle now with a GT4 car just ahead of Bjorn and Versaveld's going to go for it. Now the GT4 car has just, thank God, he's got underground and moved out the way. That is the most professional thing a sim racer can do to get out of the way of a faster car, is to just burrow underground. So I'm not sure who that was, but well done you. That's left Versaveld and Renard to fight it out on their own. Steve, do you know if we can find out what happened to the car that sort of made like a submarine?
Yeah, we can try. I'm not sure who it was, to be honest, because obviously that was a connection issue. And just looking down the leaderboard, we've got O'Brien in the Alpine, who's got a yellow mark next to his name, which indicates his ping's high but not dangerous. So if you just look at the names, to the right of the names, you will see a little bar. And like I say, O'Brien, if you look in P21, you can see the yellow one. That indicates his ping. There we go. We've got the car, Porsche number 19, in the pits. That's the car that disappeared into the ground. So I'm wondering if they've got a connection issue, and that's maybe a retirement. Not sure.
Would that be our first retirement? I think that would be our first retirement.
It would be, yeah. It would be.
Yeah, because Hop is 7 laps down, but he's still displaying as on track.
Yeah, we see Peter Munkholm with the massive damage from turn 1 is still actually on track. So he would actually maybe have been one of the guys to disconnect, but he's still out racing. So good of him.
Oh, Zermatt in the chat is just said, is it me or is the stream well quiet?
Yeah, we've been playing with the volumes earlier on in the stream. I think we've got them to a level where we're probably going to leave them for now for those 15 minutes, but it's something we'll work on when we're off air and try and get the levels correct for the next time Dan's doing the streams.
Or I can just shout very loudly for Zermatt.
Yeah, we could maybe turn Cammy up and boost Brian.
Yeah. Right, saying that, having to look at the top 3 again, we got 13 minutes and 40 seconds to go. We still got Abranoso and car 33 lapping in 2:13. We got Leo, the Finnish guy, as I call him, lapping in 2.10 seconds. So
what do you do if
3 seconds quicker a lap. And we got Aaron Martin Pilkington in 3rd place, lapping in 2:11.1. So Aaron is 35 seconds away, which seems like a light year away. Not saying if Abranoso in 1st place keeps his head down, doesn't make any mistakes, we are looking at the top 1 or 2. But definitely Leo in 2nd place, he's pushing hard. He's pushing really hard. I mean, sector 1 alone, he's a second quicker than Abranoso in 1st place. So, and we got just just over 12 minutes to go, so
that won't help.
7 laps.
Excursions like that from Abernethy won't help.
Nelson just made a big mistake. So saying that after 2.4 hours mini Le Mans, mini 24-hour race, like we saw a few weeks ago, it came down to the wire a few hours actually before race end. The situation changed and places changed. So
we've got a great battle here for 4th, haven't we?
Yeah, definitely. Seeing the Porsche, really great delivery here.
Pressured Drunen to make a mistake. They banged doors. I don't think it was intentional. They just weren't quite aware of where the other car was. But
he
thank goodness he's rejoined. Hopefully he won't get too penalised for that, because the sensible thing to do was, he kept the car straight rather than hard lock to the right or left to try and get back on the track would just induce a spin.
Thies was well in the pits, probably repairing a bit of the damage, even though it's maybe a little bit too late gone.
Now, has John Doe just did he let Drunen pass as as a way of an apology for their contact? Because that looked like he just moved over. That looked like he just deliberately moved over and just eased off the accelerator a little bit to let him go. Because look, now he's right back behind him, as if to say, right, I've done the right thing. Now I'm going to take the position back off you again. Just to flex.
Could be, but I wouldn't say that he needed to do. It didn't look like in turn 1 that it was actually his mistake. But I could be wrong.
In the heat of the moment, he might be unaware and may have just felt, I'm quicker than this guy anyway, rather than risk sort of a steward's inquiry after the race or anything, it being reported. If I let him pass, that puts that to bed, and I don't need to worry about that after the race is done.
No, but that's true enough. But still, that's quite grand of him, considering they're racing for 4th place overall. So
yeah,
and he makes a mistake. So okay, that's done and dusted.
John Doe, he was lucky not to be involved in that, but
yeah,
that was Drunen and Frank Hobb was just getting in the way. We're just making noises here. It's hard to summarise when it just happens all so quickly.
We got another good livery, high-vis livery. But yeah, that's the good thing about wet race.
It's never dull.
No.
It really makes me want to get back into this. It's been too long since I've driven, but Assetto Corsa Competizione probably feels quite different to when I last raced right at the beginning of this year, I think, actually.
Right, 9 minutes and change to go, and got 7.3 seconds between first and second place, and second place is lapping 2.2 seconds quicker than first place, so this could go down to the wire, to be honest.
I really hope it does. It will really set up a fantastic ending to what has been a really enjoyable race, and so I just want to thank you, all 25 of you who are watching now and who've stayed with us for the last couple of hours. Thank you for watching. We've enjoyed having you here and enjoyed answering your questions, haven't we?
Well, definitely. I mean, and also another race where well, we haven't got anybody who disconnected because of damage or anything, and it's still, with the amount of cars and teams we've got on track, that's quite rare that people don't disconnect or rage quit, as you call it, simply because it doesn't go your way. So that's just awesome to see. And I mean, from my point of view, there has been incidents, but from what we saw, it's not been like intentional incidents. It's been like race incidents, people robbing, people running off track. I mean,
it's been professional.
Like we see here, really courteous, that if you see somebody coming that probably is coming a bit quicker than and you know where your position is, you actually let them get the room. And
Yes.
I mean, that's just awesome to see that it's not like first corner and everybody's in the barrier.
No, sort of bringing up horrific memories of turn 1 at Monza in Gran Turismo Sport for me there. As Nelson Brenoza making his way through the traffic, very aware that Leo Hirvonen is closing that gap always. Now Brenoza's put his foot down a little bit. The gap's not come down as quickly as it was earlier, but if Hirvonen only needs to take out a second lap, and with 2 minutes to go, he'll be right behind him.
We need to see a comparison between Nelson Abrahusa, sorry, in first place, and Leo the Finn in second place. Sorry.
It's been a long night.
If we could see that for the last couple of laps, that would be awesome, because he's really struggling. Now we see Leo,
So
and look
Leo's-
at that, 2.9. He is definitely quicker, but he doesn't have the traffic.
He's on the charge. He's on the charge.
Yeah, and we got 6 minutes and stuff going. So
He's taking out another second.
Yeah, this is going down to the wire after 2.5 hours, roughly 2.5 hours, and it'll still come down to this. I mean, we sort of, and I did that maybe mainly. We sort of dealt out Leo Hirvonen and Mark Kennedy for this because of an extra pit stop, but how wrong was I? And as we talked about, this is the commentator curse about saying good things about people that doesn't go through.
Just getting a lovely message from Sim Racing Dad. A big shout out to the commentators for blabbering for the last 2.5 hours and entertaining us.
That's
And
good. That's
the
good.
audience has grown by about 20% in the last 10 minutes. So
That's
even
awesome.
with that, we are that great commentating duo.
Yeah.
I've really enjoyed commentating with you, Brian. You have
It's
you
been
sound
good. It's been good.
yeah, you sound like a Danish Liam Neeson. I think you have voice of Liam Neeson.
I don't know where you live.
The audience has
I will-
grown because the
I will
YouTube
thank you.
the YouTube algorithms have picked up that Chris Hill's talking about pizza again, and
Okay.
it's brought all the RRP 101 team in, and they're all looking for their pizza again.
Right, Hirvonen now only 3.2 seconds behind Abrinoza. He'll start being able to read the sponsor decals on the back of Abrinoza's car. Mike Abrinoza, who was with us earlier, will be willing his teammate on, his uncle, to just eke out those last 4 minutes. I believe it would be, if I'm correct, 4 minutes and then
And
one
last
extra lap.
Yeah. 4 minutes and last lap, as I believe.
And I have run out of fuel on that extra. When you run out of time, and depending where the cars are on track, I have run out of fuel on that extra sort of last lap with 0 minutes to go, as it were. So let's hope that doesn't happen to anybody here today. But it's 2.4 seconds now, less. So he must be taken out. We've got the time comparisons. Abrinoz has been doing consistent 211s, high and low 211s, and Leo Hirvonen's just doing consistent low to mid 209s. So next lap, he'll be looking to make the overtake, and Abrinoz is going to have to defend for his life.
Well,
Make his nephew proud.
We saw Nelson. Nelson was really battling with back markers, so it's lost him a lot of times. And let's see when he gets over the start and finish line, what's his actual lap time. But you see Leo flashing away just behind him, so he made up a massive amount of time, and that's the problem and the curse with back markers. If you hit him the wrong place, the wrong time, they're just going to be holding you up like crazy.
A back marker could decide this race.
Let's see, yeah.
It is very likely. And Abrinoz has picked up the pace a little bit. He's done a 2-minute 10, but that's not good enough. Hirvonen's still doing 2-minute 09s as he just clears. Abrinoz clears another back marker there. I didn't catch who it was, and I just see a black and red. not sure. I think it may have been John Betton, who would be I think he is a couple laps down. He's keeping out of their squabble for the lead. We seem to be following an Aston Martin at the moment. Yeah, that is Ebenezer. For some reason,
That's the Martin from Milton, yeah, and just behind him you see him. Yeah, you see Leo just having to deal with the back marker there, and well, as Nelson has in the front. So this is 2 minutes left. They got at least 2 laps to go. So it doesn't
Bjorn.
look good for the family, Bruce.
Bjorn, get out the way, Bjorn.
Yeah.
Just ease off the gas, Bjorn. Oh, so now he's going to be holding Hirvonen up.
Problem
and
is
this is a difficult place to overtake.
The problem is when you get a blue flag and you let someone pass, you think it's all done and dusted, but rarely you know that there's actually another guy coming. That's the problem a little bit with sim racing, that especially if you're battling for positions, that you don't want to give the space up to somebody for position, but you don't mind giving the space up for somebody overtaking you.
No, exactly. That is very true. But now there's no more back markers for quite a bit of time. So this is just mano a mano now. Abranoza and Hirvonen. It might as well be a 1 lap, 2 lap sprint race. Ooh. And Hirvonen's just taking different lines, see if he can make a bit of the undercut through the Casio triangle, and let's see if he can get him into turn 1. They're
Nilsson's
going across
staying on the inside. Nilsson's staying on the inside, it looks like.
He's got the inside line. He's going to keep it, and maybe he can do a Verstappen and just sort of hold him out to dry around the outside. He knows he's got the racing line, and they've kept it clean. There's a
little bit of touch there. A little
cuddle. A little cuddle,
okay,
but
yeah, he's gone.
Abranoza really didn't want to let that go, but hats off to him. He kept it clean.
Wow.
He could have just run him out to the outside, but
that's
he's going to come back at him whilst he's got the slipstream.
And again, as we saw on the 24-hour race, this is delivered of the drivers we've got here. I mean, within 24 hours of 50 cars racing with, as I believe, 6 cars not finishing, there was a total of, and would you like to guess how many incidents?
Oh, I couldn't. Tell me.
Come on, just give me a guess.
16.
Wow, that's a bit rough, but 41 incidents.
Oh, wow.
In 24 hours with 39 cars.
Okay, that's not so bad. No, that's not so bad then.
No,
I didn't really think that properly.
That's really awesome.
But we are on we are being told now by Steve, you probably heard, we are on the final lap. And what a race to hold the lead for so long and then to lose it on the last lap must be a bit of a gut punch. But Abranoza now is just going to be hoping that one of these back markers will just hold Hirvonen up, just make a wrong move and make Hirvonen back off the gas a little bit, which could give Abranoza a run to retake the lead if he gets it all right through the Casio triangle. But it doesn't look like it's going to happen. There's nobody ahead that can get in Hirvonen's way. Abranoza's late on the brake. It's a bit of a do or die move, but he was never close enough.
Awesome race.
Leo Hirvonen coming out the final corner now with Abranoza, and he's going to take the checkered flag for a fantastic victory. Where we thought it was going to be the BMWs dominating, it was the Lexus that held out.
Well, they actually showed great pace in one of the 24-hour race. The Lexuses, I believe they came up into 3rd place, but with a long battle before them. But yeah, awesome race from the guys here, Matthew and Leo. I mean, we didn't really see it coming because of the early pit stop they made, and we were actually making a little bit of fun of them because they actually maybe misjudged the strategy a little bit. But with some damage and other occurrences, it turned out their way, and
Pilkington's picked up 3rd, given the troubles he had when he began his stint.
Yeah,
I think he'd be very proud with 3rd.
Big repair to his car just coming out of the pits after they actually made the driver swap. So,
And look at the gap back to fourth. John Doe, he's yet to go around the spoon curve. So he really, the top three really had a large gap from the rest of the field. I mean, Drunen is a lap down. He's already crossed the finish line a lap down. So John Doe will be John Doe will be the last driver to finish on the lead lap.
Yeah, and in a Porsche with the 8s, to be honest, not the Cup car, but still. But it must have been a grueling race, to be honest.
Especially for the drivers that couldn't change.
Yeah, wet conditions all around, and as we talked to Mike Abranosa about earlier about getting the car set up from the race start, you're able to load a setup. Flashing his lights coming through John Doe Germany, that's fine. Oh, that's perfect. But coming into the race, having to set up the car, not being able to change the setup during the race for the damp conditions, going over to more dry, but then coming back to wet and damp conditions. It takes a lot of practice.
I'm wondering if it'd be possible to get Leo and Matthew, our winners, into the commentary box and be able to congratulate them and talk them through their victory. Would that be possible, Steve?
Yes, I would hope that they will join us for an interview, as we're possibly going to switch to the track pan view now, so we can avoid all the server chat, just in case there's anything unsavoury in there.
Don't forget, everybody watching, to like and subscribe to Simsport Racing International if you've enjoyed this race.
And we have got Kieran Vidaga and Aaron Martin Pilkington here for a chat now.
Welcome, guys. Welcome. How must be pretty exhausted after that. How was it out there, Aaron?
It was painful. It's for me in particular. My teammate Kieran absolutely pulled out the bag, starting P12 and got us into the lead by a comfortable margin. And yeah, you know, Matt Kennedy and Leo are not slow, and none of the guys are slow, but he did an amazing job. And yeah, I just let us down and try to carry it home.
No, don't be silly. You didn't let anybody down. We were saying how difficult it must be to just jump straight into the car and immediately know that you have to match the pace that Kieran set, and you just have to sort of hit the ground running, just being thrown into the deep end.
Yeah, no, I kind of agree with you there, because you know he was running 3 TCS in the pouring down rain, and I had to drive it on 9. So like I couldn't. My skill level was nothing compared to what he could do in the rain. And so
just Aaron, just for the viewers, just let us know what you mean exactly with the settings.
Like, so he was running 3 on the traction control and I think 4 on the ABS, and I was running 9 on the traction control. Yeah. So it didn't bog out. I just have a lead foot, and yeah, when it comes to, it's the first time on the new physics as well for me in a GT3, and that was a learning curve for sure.
And that's one of the things you can actually change on the car after the race started.
Yeah, something you can do. I think it's the MDF.
Yeah, it's just a matter of getting the people to understand, because we talked about loading up the setup from the race start, and we heard that available after the initial setup is set on. So, but we got some helps with the traction control and the ABS. You can actually change on the fly. So it's just a matter of getting people to understand what we actually talk about.
Yeah, and we were also pretty lucky with our setup as well. The way that we had it, it was perfect when it started to pour down, and then as it started to dry, it was just on the very high end of perfect, and it just kind of modulated between the two really, for Kieran. So yeah, he was blisteringly fast.
Yeah, because Kieran was doing an awesome job. I mean, he was setting lap times after lap times, and then we saw him going into the pits, and then we saw you coming out of the pits, and then we didn't see you until a few seconds after you went into the wall, and we were like, what happened there?
Thanks, Brian. I don't want to relive it.
No. I know it's the grueling times you don't want to hear about, but it's just because they were so close to the end, and we were talking about it that with the pace Kieran had, and I was saying that normally you also have maybe not the same pace, but you're really close to each other, and then.
Yeah.
Just saying that, and we talked about the curse of the commentary, saying good things about people, as you know from the 24-hour race. That what I said, that it looks really good, and then you have two guys going off into the wall. But it's just like it was a great race from all of us, and seeing it had to go down to the wire is just amazing.
Kieran, I'm wondering if we can hear from you. I just wanted to ask, you were behind Matthew Kennedy for quite a while, and we were just wondering if that was a sort of deliberate choice to just bide your time, or whether he was genuinely difficult to get past.
Oh yeah, definitely. Matt's a great racer. I've raced with him a bit, and I didn't want to make any rash moves or anything. Yeah, didn't want to be impatient. I knew I had good pace on him. I knew it was all just a matter of time of waiting for a small mistake and then taking that opportunity, which is exactly what ended up happening. He went wide at Spoon, and that let me through.
I'm so glad you said, because the camera, we missed that on-track action. We only saw, and we suspected what we thought had happened was he had made a mistake at the Casio triangle, or he was in the lead and just pitted early and you went by. So
No,
talk us through what happened at Spoon.
He just went a bit wide. So the entry got the first half of Spoon. He just went a bit wide to that middle section. Goes on the green AstroTurf, and that just gives me the opportunity to just go down the inside and sort of block pass. Where you stick to the inside and say, no, you're not coming back up me.
Because it looked like you were able to take much tighter lines than him. I don't know if you noticed when you were following.
Yeah, I felt like in the BMW I could take whatever line I fancied behind him, and it worked.
And when Pilkington pitted with damage, how bad was that damage that you had to repair? Was it had you damaged the front splitter and you were getting understeer then, Aaron?
Yeah, it was big damage. 23 seconds, and Aaron was saying the car was undrivable the entire time he was on it. It's only about 3 laps, but it looked horrible.
It was horrible.
Yeah, I mean, that BMW is not a looker anyway, but I'm not a fan of the big sort of the massive grills that BMW are putting on their cars, but it didn't make it look any better. I'm guessing Brian's got no more questions. I think he's muted his microphone. So, Aaron and Kieran, congratulations, and thank you for spending a few minutes talking about your victory today.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, I just want to say thank you to everyone for hosting the event. I had a massively fun time, and thanks, Aaron, for being my teammate.
It's all right, baby.
Now kiss.
Okay. Wait, what?
Anyway, we should probably hand you back to the chap who knows what he's doing, because I've just sort of muddled my way through this. So, over to you, Steve Proudly.
Oh, you mean me? No, thanks very much, Cammy. Thanks, Brian. Thanks to everybody who's taken part. Fantastic event this evening. Some great racing from all involved, as we saw some very, very difficult conditions, wet to dry, back to wet, and then starting to dry up again. So it made it really, really interesting. Don't think it affected anyone's strategies too much, but awesome, awesome work. Thank you very much, as I said, to Cammy and Brian for all the comms this evening. The stream isn't possible without you guys. It really does add to the entertainment value. And Daniel Hyde, massive thanks to him for his first broadcast for Simsport Racing International, hopefully the first of many, and often goes unmentioned behind the scenes there. So thank you very much, Dan. Great pictures. We do have more racing coming up. We are racing on Tuesday evening, I believe, with the GT3s. So tune in for the GT3s. We will have another 2.4-hour event after Christmas. So keep your eyes peeled on the social medias and on the YouTube for that. And all that's left for me to say is thank you very much for everyone joining us this evening. Stay safe. See you all soon. Thank you.